Hello everyone, Defcamp here. Before the show starts, I have a quick message I'd like to share with you all. In case you're wondering where I've been and what's been going on with the channel, the truth is I've been spending most of my energy recently streaming over at Twitch, where I've been streaming classic WoW, but also other games such as Elden Ring. I've always enjoyed streaming and interacting with the community, and I plan on streaming more now as well as continuing to do more podcasts in the future that I will also be posting on the YouTube channel. I'm currently trying to grow the streams community and to make the streams not only fun and interactive, but a great place to hang out. So I could really use your help to make that a possibility. And if you enjoy our content, I would ask you to please join us over at twitch.tv/defcamp. Also, Melderon is a regular guest on the stream in case you've missed him. With that being said, I plan to continue to do new podcasts here on the YouTube channel, as well as post some stream clips, and with Wrath of the Lich King on the horizon, possibly some new guides and other content. My goal is to breathe a new life into the channel and the community, and to continue to give you guys the content that you expect and enjoy from us. Please go ahead and follow at twitch.tv/defcamp. I hope you enjoy the show. Boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. There. Oh, wait, no. And that. No, wrong one. Okay, there we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there we go. We're back. We're here. Sorry about that mix up, guys. All right. Is you guys there? Are we alive? Is everyone okay? I'm sorry about that. Looks good. Thank you guys for helping me out there. Guys, I just wanted to say... sorry about the obvious scuffage at the beginning. I have an extra fucking thing right there. There we go.
Well,
Wouldn't
do
be...
do your intro, and then you...
Melderon, give me a second, all right? Fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it. I'll tell you what I gotta do. This is my show, DefTalk, all right? Get
Three, 2, 1.
All right. So yes, the highest quality we can provide is to get everyone welcome, guys. We have a very important message right here. DefTalk is back. It is back. The scuffage is here. It's been, I want to say, over a year since we've done this. If you remember our little intro we say, welcome to DefTalk, the WoW podcast that focuses on everything World of Warcraft, whether it's classic, retail, or the players that play it. Shit, you guys can see my notes. God damn it. Oh, fuck.
Wait, what?
I somehow my notes are showing. There we go. All right. Now you can't see my notes anymore.
Just move the notes down.
I did, Bob. I got it. I got it. All right. What a fucking scuffage this is. Oh my god. All right. I feel better now. I feel better now. Guys, seriously though, welcome. We have with us today my lovely brother Melderon, all the way from LA. Let's give him a round of applause. Melderon, welcome. Thank you for being here, Melderon.
All the way from LA. I flew with my boy, my arm's tired.
Yes. And we've got, of course, with us my brother Blazzinbob. You all know him from the Warcraft Reloaded podcast. You know, Bob, I just got to say, you are an inspiration to me, my man. I really appreciate you having me on your show for so many times. And he and our other special guests are the reason why we're here today. So I want to introduce you guys who, in this stream, you know who he is because you see him type him all the time. He loves Ralph. We all know it. Just Megamanx4 in the chat. Let's give him a hand of applause. Dude, thank you so much, Megaman.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming out. Yes.
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Like, it's kind of weird to think, though. It's like, it took me bugging you to get Bob and you on the same show.
I know, right?
And I got you to play Lost Ark too.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, you know, like, so if I can get you to play Final Fantasy, I'll be 3 for 3. Hey,
we're getting there. Yeah, I think who knows. We'll probably get there. But I just wanted to really seriously say thank you to you and Bob for, you know, inspiring me to bring the podcast back, to bring the show back. I've been really wanting to do this. And you know, it's really nice to be able to just sit down with a group of friends and talk about the things that we love. So, but really big shout outs to Megaman to, you know, you've been an avid watcher of not only myself but of Bob, and you know, I really appreciate the support, and I really appreciate you know, just having that dialogue with us. So again, you know, very glad to have you guys here. What have you guys been up to recently? We'll start with you, Bob. What you been up to recently?
Oh, God, what have I not been up to? Still working on my duo hardcore with my wife, Mel. I did complete my solo hardcore on the Rogue a few weeks back, so that's done. I'm in hardcore elite, but I just haven't had time to get Priebus or get anything going to help Duranosaur. But maybe in the future, maybe actually with the druid and the uh, the priest Mel and I are working up with might actually be better because they really need heals. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll just go that route. But yeah, I've been doing a little bit of that. I've been doing a lot of. I got my rogue in TBC to 70, and I've been doing a ton of PvP because it actually feels good now. Like you can actually get stuff, and you can get it. Like you know,
Dude.
it's not fast, but it's definitely way faster. It feels better. You know, there's so many different things to catch up on right now. Like my rogue, I dinged 70, and then an hour and a half later had my season 1 weapon. Now I did collect honor prior, so like it wasn't exactly cheap honor, but it's the season 1 weapon. I went from the blue you get from Circle of Blood to, so it was like 60 DPS. I went from 60 DPS to 90 DPS in one fell swoop. Like it felt good. Catch up right now is good. Anybody, you know, thinking about coming back to the game, like this is the time. And I've just been having a blast. We also moved to Benediction.
Oh,
so that's new too.
very
You guys did
nice.
move. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I just want to say that I myself too have been kind of reinvigorated with this latest patch. The way that me and Melderon were very wary about this at first, that what were going to be the repercussions of these PvP changes, and I gotta say I am a huge fan of how things feel now and how things have kind of turned into a much easier progression for people to get into PvP. You could essentially get a level 70. You don't have to get a tune for SSC or TK, right? You can join a G, get AP, you can join a Pug, get tokens from that raid and turn it into PvP gear, right? Which is really awesome. You can also go ahead and just do the dailies, the PvP dailies, whether it's the towers or whether it's the daily the daily battleground, and get like 1,000 honor per daily. So, and also turning in marks, now you get like 600 honor per turn of 3 marks. So it's really reinvigorated me and a lot of other people I know of to get back into PvP. So yeah, I've really
and I was just gonna say real quick, that's the thing. Like it was my birthday on Thursday night raid, and we went and did
happy birthday,
Gruul.
Bob.
Thank you. We went and did Gruul and Vash afterwards, and for my birthday they let my PvP spec rogue that was in greens and blues come in for a chance at token drops. I got the shoulders off of King. That's the only token drop I got, but I did get the dagger off of Vash, and I got the throwing weapon off of Gruul. So just boom, right there, 70. I think that day I turned 70, or maybe it was the day before.
Damn.
But you're already getting gear, and the gear, is the first phase. But the difference between first phase epics and first phase blues is like huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas each tier afterwards is kind of a jump, but like that gear from the older stuff is really good starting out. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, happy belated birthday to you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick before we get to Mega Man, Melderon, how about you? What you been up to?
Not much, to be honest. PvP capping before the ZA phase comes out, because I think the new PvP training comes out, so I want to make sure that I'm honor capped when that comes out. Rating.
Right. Got your another Drake. I know that was
yeah. Got my another Drake.
Yeah.
God. Bought my first already had my 2 weapons from Arena. I got a piece today too. I got the gloves.
Oh yeah, it reminds me. I gotta get a new piece too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just just been chilling. This is like my favorite part of like I've been having a lot of fun with WoW, because I feel like I'm at a point where I'm doing my main goals are just to keep raiding, get gear, but I'm already started like prepping for my Death Knight. So I'm already prepping his professions and everything. So he'll have a boatload of gold when he starts, and all the materials to go from 1 to 375 and 2 professions ready from the start.
Awesome.
So I'm getting all that done.
Yeah, we'll be talking about some ref stuff later. But before we do, Mega Man, again, I just wanted to let everyone know, Mega Man here for the first time. If you want to just tell us what you've been up to, Mega Man, and if you want to tell us a little bit about your experience with WoW and how it's been recently.
Sure. Well, I've been playing games since 2004. Been a good right here. I got the whole setup here. I did this on purpose. My experience with the game, I played it very much from a solo player perspective, depending on how you look at that or not. The quality of the game, it depended on the expansion. Probably one of the reasons why I will say Wrath was probably my favorite, and overall I'd say it's the best version. Legion was good too. Everything else just kind of blurred. I have some good memories from Classic once I got into a guild, which I did have some fun with. Funnily enough, that's where Mega came from, was Classic, because I had a guild leader that from Stone Curse. He had a Zanzer, and Zanzer. Different characters. As for what I've been up to, well, I recently quit TBC for a lot of reasons. Part of it was burnout, but it's actually been a very nice experience. Like, I can just have fun.
Yeah.
Like, I get to check out other games. I've been playing retail, but I'm doing it in a different way. I'm doing it very casually. Because one thing I've kind of learned about myself, we do ourselves a disservice by... It's like we see WoW as a pizza, right? And we're just like, no, we gotta eat it all up, And it's like, no, like just one slice at a time, one bite at a time. It's like you're not full right now, so we don't burn ourselves on it. It's a great pizza, but, don't burn yourselves out on it. But that's kind of the short version. Every single expansion, I've basically played it as single player, mainly because of my spelling. Anyone that's seen me in your guys' Twitch chat, I'm sure can contest to this. Obviously, people were mean back then. But for each expansion, how I've seen the game change over the years, I think in some ways it has changed in good ways, and I think in other ways it's changed in bad. It really depends on where you are as a player, what you want from the game, and what is important to you. A lot of stuff that a lot of people think is just baseline, like, well, no, a lot of it's the more you look at the game, what I've learned, is taking a step back and really looking as a player, a lot of the stuff very much is opinionated, but I go on a ramble, so that's...
No, it's a lot to unpack. I really appreciate your outlook on the game, because the older I get, and I think Melderon and I can attest this, when we were younger, we were very much not casual. Maybe we were in some ways, but we played the game every day, and we had a totally different outlook on the game, and I think that really led to our expectation of what we wanted Classic to be this time around. But realistically, we have very much turned into casuals in a lot of ways. I play TBC, right? Like, I haven't played the last 3 days. I'll play tonight. I'll do some arena, and I'll do raid in between. And right now, it's kind of where I've been with it, and I've been happy experiencing the game like that recently, because, like you said, Mega Man, there have been some really good games that have came out recently. Lost Ark and Elden Ring, obviously, I've been really playing a lot of, and it's nice to be able to explore other games and not be so sucked into WoW, which I've always been in the past. And I think, when it comes to WoW in particular, it is one of those games where sometimes it's hard to be just a casual player, because WoW in itself kind of, in order to play WoW at its end game level, it's kind of anti-casual in a lot of ways, right? At least Classic and even some points into retail, right? And I
heavily disagree with that, but I'll,
no. Yeah, let me. Yeah. What I mean by that is, right? I feel like if I were to, TBC, I do feel like has definitely been a lot better, but I feel like Classic, playing Classic at the level that like we did before was kind of anti-casual in a lot of ways. I feel like getting world buffs and you were either forced to raid log, or you were forced to do the opposite, right? Of playing other characters, and maybe it's just the way that I prefer to play WoW. Maybe that's how it is. But I do feel like as WoW has gone on, right, in order to play WoW at a high end, whether you're doing PvP and PvE, right, I feel like it does take a lot of time to do it. You know what I mean? And maybe as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that like I do like the aspect of being able to like log on twice or two or three times a week and not really have to feel like I have to play every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Melderon. Go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh,
I just want to counteract one thing that Defcamp said that I think
okay,
is...
go ahead. I'll say my piece after you.
I just think that TBC is like we're seeing everything, we're doing everything, and we're logging in like a total of 10 hours a week. So I don't know why people feel like they're being burned out. Like I have been more relaxed in TBC than I have in like years of playing WoW. Like I have all the gold I need, I have all the professions I need, I have like consumes for raid, we arena once a week. Like I do dailies, but like there's days I miss that. Like I miss 3 days of dailies. I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
I think it.
You know what I mean?
Sorry, I thought you were done.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
like you don't have to play. Like I'm a casual now, and I'm seeing all the content. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of that though does have to do with where you're at in the game. Like, this is kind of where I was at. Like you guys have a guild, and I know that did survive through Classic, and I do believe it very much. Like if you had a guild at the set people, that's your gateway. Like if you have even a set of 25 people, you're fine. The problem is when a new person joined the game now to try and get that place, because of how I do feel the player base is, you're going to have a lot of people that want to join guilds, that want to progress, and realistically can't find that core of 25. It's finding those people that want to dedicate, or don't want to jump too fast. I know that was an issue in my guild. It's like, we need to progress. And I'm like, we haven't even killed a third boss on SSC, guys, and you want to jump into DK and think you're going to be fine? Like, no way. It's not going to happen. They were still pugging people, Yeah. And yes, good pugs, but reality is, in a lot of sense, I feel that, unfortunately, this is the case. A lot of times, just the way TBC has been built, you have better luck with pugs. Like it's very much becoming this, I would almost say, more pug friendly, because it almost feels like, well, I have to pay attention because we just want to get this done. Whereas in a guild, there kind of becomes, depending on your guild, of course, obviously, you have this, like, we need this core people, and like all the good people, like, I'm already in a guild, I already have it established. Which is why I would say, something I'm going to talk about later, if you didn't start at the beginning of TBC, when you had that real rush of people, even, like, let's just pretend you did have the 58 boost and it was unlimited, it still wouldn't matter, because to get from even 58, that huge grind is still there, right? Are there limits to that? Yes, but I do still feel that if I were to, say, join another server now, right, with just a fresh even 70, the grind that's in front of me, there's so many things you have to do, and people just don't want to do it anymore. Like, as a tank, right, I can tell you a lot.
I just don't know what grind do you have to do though to jump in right now. I mean, you could do PvP and get, we could actually call them welfare epics once again. Like
there's no
you could
attunement
jump
for
into
Karazhan, Gruul,
yeah,
Megamanx4.
I mean, you could just.
The
jump
only
in.
thing I think that would be kind of a grind is the heroic attunements, personally.
I think a grind is finding a guild though. Like finding a guild that's going to take you into current content. Like that's to me, like if I were starting a new character, I think it would be hard for me to find a raiding, like to get attuned to the current content, right? And to feel like I'm geared enough to get into and raid with a current, content guild.
That's kind of what I meant more. Like, yeah, you're right. You don't technically have to get the reputations. You can get away with getting honored, especially.
Well, and just like heads up, when ZA patch hits, all the keys are honored and no longer
they're honored.
revered. So
yeah,
which again is going to help. I'm just saying, like,
honestly, I don't think it's going to help. They still haven't nerfed heroics, so really, you're better to get into ZA or Karazhan because it's actually easier.
See,
I mean, even SSC and TK now is actually easier than.
Oh, it's a joke.
Like, heroics are hard still.
Yeah,
It's the only
I-
thing that's really hard right now, actually.
Yeah, well, and see, the thing is, this is something I'm learning as a tank, which the difficulty curve in TBC is kind of weird because it's not really worth it to do heroics, even like as a tank. And I can say I don't like doing heroics, especially with pugs, because, and I say this as a pally tank, right? I can't tell you how many times I say, wait for the consecrate to hit, guys. Please let me get aggro. Or I always
Just
have
let him die, dude.
That's what Melderon doesn't do, right? Melderon, what do? You run around the character like 4 times before you attack?
I run around the tank like to make sure, like I give like a little loop for the tank before I start attacking.
Yeah, well, and everybody's, and I would contribute this a little bit to classic. Everyone's so used to zug 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 zug,
Mhm.
more parses, DPS, zug 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 zug. It's like no, guys, don't. Why? Or the other thing, and this one drives me crazy, which is why I don't want to play a DPS. When people don't wait for healers to get mana, I'm like, guys, no, I'm not pulling. No. You guys all go die. I'm gonna wait here and wait the healer to get mana.
Hey, I'm so excited to tank in Wrath and to do what they did to me. But in Wrath it's a lot different. But no, I understand. I think what I wanted to say too, Melderon, about your point is like I definitely enjoy where I am in TBC right now. I didn't want to misconstrue that. I think what I meant to say was like it's not that I'm saying that it's like, you know, so it's a lot to unload. Where I am right now is a very particular place, right? Because I love where I am in TBC right now, and I really love the fact of like, you know, how I can play the game right now. However, I am very excited, and this is a very particular me problem, right? To not heal anymore. And it sounds bad, but like I've healed the last 15 years of my life, right? And like for me right now to progress to another character or even play another character as an alt, like even with my hunter, I don't feel like it's feasible. I don't want to put in all that time. I don't want to put in, like, TBC is very alt unfriendly, I would say, compared to other expansions. And I think, you know,
stay heads up, Def. I don't think you're gonna miss healing.
Well, I plan on tanking in Wrath, so I plan on.
But I mean, tanking and DPS is still not as like healing is so. What's the word I'm looking for? It's so different every time.
But I've healed in every. I've healed in every single expansion since, like, I've done classic, TBC, Wrath, Kata. I've done every expansion as a healer, right? As different types of healers.
We can come back to this after you've tanked a while, and I just want to see if I turned out to be right. You're like, I want to heal.
Bob's point is that tanks and DPS follow set rotation every single pull, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, and it's just it's not as dynamic as healing is, and I think healing is the most dynamic role you could play in WoW, at least in the Wrath and TBC eras, right? So that's I was just saying, I think you're just because I have a friend that's does your exact story. He went DPS, started TBC, and he freaking hated it. He's like, nope. Then he quit. He just recently came back. He's like, yep, definitely go back to healing for Wrath.
I think that's why I'm looking forward to tanking, though, you know, because like I've done the healer, I've done the DPS thing as well. I've also done the tanking thing, but I do think tanking has another initiative, especially like in Wrath, where it's, you know, you can do things like as a paladin tank, like you can, you know, sack the main tank while you're off tanking, so you're taking damage for him. Like there's that cool dynamic there where it's kind of feels like a healer in some ways, right? Where you're taking damage for the group or you're taking damage for the current tank. So it's not just like you're sitting there mindlessly spamming 1 or 2 buttons and moving the boss. I feel like there is a little bit more of you know, dynamic there.
And even DPS gets better in Wrath. Like you get a lot more class specs that have actual rotations that are intricate and fun, you know. So it's like even those get better. So there's that too.
Yeah, and to add to, well, the one thing I would say, Bob, because let's remember, right? Tanking gets fun in Wrath.
It does. That's where it really became.
It really does. Yeah.
It actually gets fun, and like, because this is one thing I remember. like one specific thing, and something I almost never heard. And this is WoW players back in 2008, right? They may complain about a lot of things, but almost the littlest complaint I ever heard. Overall, they never said their class wasn't fun. Like, no matter what you did, whether you be a rogue, a subtlety, no matter what, everybody had fun, which I think is a wonderful thing that, unfortunately, no matter what they did, I don't think they've ever been able to recapture that. Like, no matter whether it be Classic or Shadowlands, no matter what aspect of that, there's never been a point, aside from Wrath, where every single person can say, my class was fun to play. Which, that to me, is something that needs to be recaptured. I think that's a very important part of a game that isn't acknowledged, despite what grind you do or whatever you do. If your class isn't fun to play, you're going to hate the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even if, I don't care if the raid is the coolest thing in the world, you can tell me, I don't know, the sky grows legs and stomps down and its head is made of a volcano and its arms are made of, I don't know, necro energy.
Sounds like something from Elden Ring, yeah.
Right. but if your class isn't fun to play,
you're
gonna hit it.
Yeah, so
tanking became. I just want to hit on the point you said about tanking, which is really good. That's like something that is not only did they bring out another tank, which is big, they nerfed threat, right? So threat in Classic was the number one, in my opinion, mechanic across the board. It was a little bit muddied and a little bit less important in TBC, but still very important. Like very, very important. DPSers can easily pull off tanks. But Wrath, they made the tank folk worry less about the threat and more about mechanics. And I think that, like other mechanics. And I think that was really awesome because they gave every tank a really interesting rotation. They gave them abilities like druids being able to swipe in the 360 cone around them. So it's like, don't worry about threat. You can do that. Worry about like your placement, where you're standing, taunting. And they also took away the whole taunt immune in Wrath, right? So there's bosses in TBC and Classic that are taunt immune, and then in Wrath they got rid of that. So
did they, or was it a glyph? Because I know there was a glyph that made
it made your taunt maybe hit more, but there's no more taunt immune bosses where the taunt cannot hit. That's the thing. Like, so if you remember in Gluth, okay, Gluth is a prime example of this. Gluth in the original Classic, you had to actually gain aggro from the other tank, like surpass him or her to get that to swap the debuffs.
Right.
In Wrath, all you do is hit the taunt button.
Yeah.
It's done. Right. So that's it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and like Melderon's saying, like threat is obviously still a mechanic, but it's just lessened than where it was. Because I know for a fact
you have to really be really bad at hitting buttons to have a threat issue.
There are some tanks in Wrath that have I think the most threat generation is either a paladin or DK in Wrath, but there are some tanks that do have issues with threat just because of how quickly they can get threat out. So sometimes there's like on a boss fight, right, a druid or certain other classes, they'll get that threat lead, but that initial threat is sometimes the issue with some fights in Wrath.
Potentially initial threat. Yes, but they increase all the threat modifiers is what I'm trying to say. Right. Statically. Yeah.
And to top that off, sorry, I just wanted to add on to the end of that. Like, there's a bunch of more classes that have like a bunch more DPS classes that have aggro like switching. Yep. So like the rogue can add on tricks of the trade. I mean, later on, that's only if you have tank problems, like because you want to give that to DPS though. Have them click off the aggro part. But there's a lot more to initially give the tank a ton more aggro.
And the other thing I wanted to add on just really quick, I agree with you, Melderon, because I think in Classic, now I can only go by my experiences and what I read and heard. I think what really happened in Classic was because of world buffs and the Fury Prot dilemma, like you had this situation where even your DPS were automatically off tanks, but without even really realizing it, because I mean, if you're in a good guild, or, you know, I played a warrior in classic, okay? It's what I came back to, and one of the things I wanted to tank, but, you know, by the time I came back in, tanks were already established. But, like, if I had the chance, it's like, yeah, if someone's beating on a healer or a clothy, what do you think I'm doing? I'm strapping on a shield, defensive stance, I'm taunting, because I'm going to take more hits than they will. So indirectly, I think you also had this problem where your DPS were indirectly off tanks, and because DPS was so stupid, people really forgot, hey guys, threat's a thing in TBC. Way more, because your tanks aren't Fury Prot. They're not DPSs with more health and armor. They're actually tanks.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really bad problem. And even now I still have it. It really put this mind in people's heads. Parse. No, it has to be parse. I have to parse. I don't care if I die. We don't care if we wipe. My parse is so important. I'm like, guys, or even the whole healing sniping thing. That gives me a headache.
That's a whole nother. It's something I want to get into though, because I feel like, you know, it's true what you said there. Like, first of all, you know, even in heroics and TBC, if someone thinks that they're gonna like try and tank something that, say, like a warrior put on a shield, like, if you're not a tank and you're not defense capped, like, you're probably gonna get one shot, right? It happens in Melderon all the time, where he'll pull off aggro, he shield swaps, and he still gets one shot, right? So it's like, there's a big difference there. But like, and then what you're saying about the parsing thing, I think that's a problem. I think no matter what era of WoW, where people care more about their parses than they do the actual.
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. I think the mentality of parsing could be toxic. But would you rather have someone in your raid who's going 110% all the time, or somebody who's going 80%?
There's a difference, right? That this person that's going 110%, are they doing it and not caring about whether they pull aggro or not? So there's the difference of someone who is out there to parse no matter what. Like the people who say someone says, okay, everyone, all melee go out now, all melee go out, and then one person stays in because they want to get that parse, they die, and then they cause a wipe, that kind of thing. So like that,
I think there's like levels of like how bad you can be about it, right? Like I feel like there's people that stay in and don't listen. I think that's a different problem personally. But yeah, it's still parsing, right? It's still a parse mentality. But I do like the fact that there is a metric that lets you see how good you're doing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then otherwise, you won't know you have to improve.
Right.
I think that's something that,
I agree. But the only thing I would say to that, because let's be honest here, we've all seen it. Parses are very easily abused. And at Defcamp, as a healer, I'm sure you understand this too. Depending on what your job is, you're not going to parse well, right?
Absolutely.
But your job is important. If you're a tank healer, for example, right? Like, if your tank isn't taking damage, your job is still important, because if the tank dies, you wipe, right? But if this parse mentality happens, you have these other guys just want to steal your job essentially. It's like, and then they're not doing their job. So in my mind, like, even someone that isn't into hardcore raiding and didn't even really get to do Nax, I can still look at that as a player and have the knowledge and like, what does it matter? Like, there should be three things.
Let's be fair though.
Okay.
Healers and tanks don't care about parses. It's the DPS
that
want to see the parses.
No.
Tanks do care. Tanks
so do healers,
I mean, healers do too, but I think tanks have to care about their parses because their parses are directly correlated to the threat per second, right? I think that's damage, right? So damage is how threat is determined. So, it's not a direct correlation because there are some abilities that have a static threat multiplier, but I would want a tank with a higher parse than a lower parse 100% of the time. And then I know that their threat per second is very high.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
The only thing I would ask to that, like, tanks can parse. I didn't even know they could.
Well, yeah.
Like,
okay, so I think you're mixing up what I was trying to say. Tanks and healers don't like. They're not. I think just across the board, generally, I could say that they're not the types of people that are going to sacrifice the group for a parse number because they're already doing healing or tanking, which is a difference of personality, I think.
For the
they're
most part,
wanting
maybe,
to
yeah.
support.
For the most
they're
part,
wanting
maybe,
to
but there
help.
are some people, and just like Morphe said in chat, shout out to Morphe, healers parses, or don't show the whole story. Same thing goes for tanks, right? When you're looking at a healer's parses, it doesn't necessarily mean, there could have been someone who was, focused on dispelling. There could have been someone who was focusing on, like Mega Man said, tank healing that maybe it wasn't supposed to be. Maybe you don't have a paladin healer, so you have a holy priest sitting there tank healing, right? So obviously, like there's a whole different caveat when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think the caveat that I'm trying to make is that I don't want people who would parse at the cost of the raid. I want people who will parse because they want to improve their own performance.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and that's two different people. And I feel
Absolutely.
like, unfortunately, those two different people may get lumped into the same.
No, you're right. You're right. Because like if we didn't have parses, we wouldn't, as guild leaders, be able and raid leaders be able to actually like really. I mean, we could still obviously look at people and if they're, but it helps our job immensely to be able to look at people and see what they do and
Well, my only, I guess the point I'm trying to make here, because parses are abusable, especially in TBC. In fact, I would make an argument that there's so many ways that, especially healing parse. I mean, if you got a healer, like, hey, that warlock is life tapping. Well, I'm just gonna heal him. Oh, hey, I got a high, like a 200% parse. Well, how the heck so much higher? Like, oh, well, you only healed the warlock. So I think it comes down to what were they doing? Why did they parse high?
Right.
And fortunately, I think people rely on parses so highly now. Overall, it's like, oh, you have a bad parse? Oh, well, you're out. Well, why did they have a bad parse? And that this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Guilds, you need to trust that they'll have common sense, and I don't mean to say that, but a lot of people I've seen it just feels like this rush mentality, which isn't that the reason we left retail?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mean or, I'm not a classic Andy per se, but isn't that the reason that we all hated?
I think that might be a part of it. It is a part of it, but there's a much bigger.
Well, that's a great segue into our next point. So I wanted to, we have some topics here that Mega Man pulled out for us, and I want to go into saying this that everything that's discussed here, guys. This is a group of guys that love the game, and obviously we have different talking points, and I just want everyone to in the chat or who watches this on YouTube, we're all respectful of others' opinions, and I think it's a good thing a lot of times to have different opinions so that we can challenge our own beliefs and see where we stand. So with going into that, obviously Mega Man, you are more familiar with retail than myself and Melderon, and I'm assuming Bob. So one of the first topics is about retail WoW and about TBC and how different they are. So something that I can say about this is I personally stopped playing retail WoW around Legion. And one of the, we talked about earlier before the show came in, 3 reasons, you said 3 topics or so that you think were the worst things that were brought into WoW, right? So one of my main things about retail that I didn't like over the time was the addition of different systems that were integrated into the game, right? So obviously you have systems like when I played was the artifact system, and then you had all these different artifacts and different ways to level up the artifact system. Where I thought where legendaries was cool, it did add a difference to this artifact does this, so for certain fights. But at the end of the day, I had 20 different trinkets and different things that put on in different fights and this and another, where it kind of became just too much and it became over complicated. And that's where I think one of the main things for me over time is the systems that were added were a lot of just a headache, and also the addition of so many versions of LFR, normal, heroic, and mythic. And to me, these things that were added into the game, and with the addition of how the lore became, and it became and how classes became much more I know I'm rambling here, but became much more homogenistic. Those were the main 3 things I think for me. Now when you look and see this process overall, it took a long time obviously, but we can see where these things happened and started to happen and so forth. But I am still someone who is able to say I had a shitload of fun during Legion. I loved, the Mythic rating. I love how healing felt. I really liked Mythic Plus. So, I'm really interested to have your opinion on this, and what do you think was, how do you think retail overall weighs in the terms of things?
Well, first off, I want to make something clear. I'm playing casually. Like, I'm still going through the campaign of Shadowlands now. Like, I'm not even. I think I'm 57. But one thing I want to caveat, like, maybe I've misread. What I meant was, like, what were the 3 things that really destroyed in the core of the game, in your opinion? Is maybe I worded that badly. So, in my opinion, right, I think the 3 most devastating things to the game overall. Oh god. Gear score, the achievement spam, and not necessarily a feature, but a change in philosophy overall. And that's something that Ian said, and I don't know if anyone remembers that. One thing that Ian said was, yes, but we hear you, don't worry, we're going to be retooling classes so they're more difficult to play, more hard to play. And this is what frustrates me and really worried me when I heard that. I think the example he gave was, yes, like, I think when we looked at Paladin's Retribution specifically, it's like, I think the difference was 5 or 2% between a good player and a bad. And I'm like, but it's fun to play, right? Like, because this is the problem. But then again, we have to kind of blame ourselves too, because what was the tagline through all of Wrath? It wasn't the fact that it was fun. It was like, remember everybody, do max DPS, go from left to right, moving your head across your keyboard. And we've all said it. I've said it at some point.
Right.
It's no secret that Wrath classes were very easy to play. Now, I would make an argument. If you really compare them to TBC, it's not that big of a diff. I mean, we had more of rotation. But something that happened, I think, over the years, we have this, I don't know how to word it, except easy, bad,
complex good. Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. Right. Complexity does not equal good, though. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And hard doesn't equal good, because one thing, and this is one of the things that I don't get when people say this, they always say retail is too easy. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Leveling is easier. Getting gold is easier. But those don't really matter if it's replaced with a bunch of other grinds. And another philosophy that I think that Blizzard has stuck with over the years, which has really hurt the game, it's this, no, we want you to always play our game. We want you to always play our game. Our game, like, you want to live in this world. And we said those things over time. And unfortunately, the result of that is they're raising the bar higher and higher and higher. Why is only 20% of the player base doing mythic rating? Because it's so hard, your average player can't comprehend. Like, I look at that dungeon journal, and it's like this. It's a freaking encyclopedia. Like, and on top of that, we look at the average player, like, how often, like, do you want to live in this world? Like, do you want to play the game as a job? That's what we want to get away from, but we kept on telling you, like, no, this is too easy. This is too easy. This is too easy. Accessibility is bad. Things like that. And I would make an argument, maybe it's just me, but World of Warcraft was supposed to be the MMO for casual players, the casual audience. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be hard content, don't get me wrong, nor am I saying that everybody should have access to everything. LFR has its own problems, but, and I know Asmongold says this quite a bit over the years, and there's been changes to the game, some are good, some are bad, and I don't agree with everything he says, let me be clear. However, what I do feel, I think Mythic is too hard, and LFR is too easy. So what I would say, and combat add-ons add too much of an arms race, because if you were to take those Mythic players, like, let's pretend for 5 minutes, right? We were to do Classic again, and there's like, okay, guys, so we're changing the boss mechanics completely, redoing them, but you aren't allowed to use any combat add-ons like Weak Auras, DBM, any of those. How different would the gaming landscape works? And this is something that I give Final Fantasy a lot of credit for. They teach you how to play the game. Like, it's obviously very different. There's less RNG mechanics, but they show you how to play your class. There's also a lot of systems involved in that alts. It's very alt friendly, and I think the biggest difference we're seeing a change in the gaming landscape. People don't just want to play one game because they don't. It starts to feel like a job, and I think that's the other problem with World of Warcraft. These systems are literally choking the life out of the game.
Yeah,
that's what I would really say. I've seen the problem, but the problem is we have to take some responsibility for that because that's what we pushed for.
Absolutely.
This is too easy. This is too easy. This is too easy. This is too easy. And what ended up happening was people only look at leveling like, oh no, that game is too easy. Like they're only looking at one part. They're only looking at one part. And really the only difference is you've taken one chore. In TBC, what are your chores? Leveling and gold making and gearing, right? And reps. Well, that's happened is they've made these two chores accessible and your other chores more massive. So
you missed the most important chore in TBC, mailbox dancing. Let's keep it real.
Megaman, I want to just, so one thing that I really took away from what you said there was it reminded me of Kevin Jordan when we had Kevin Jordan on the show, and when he said how bringing Ian in was a really bad move in a lot of ways, not so much against Ian, but when you took Ian and someone who was so integrated into, you know, the top like echelon of 1% of players, he focused on that, you know, that top echelon of player base and made that the whole game. When, like you said, I do feel like 70 or more % of players that play WoW play it casually, and I think when they gear stuff in such a way to where, you know, the kind of player that Ian was toward those type of players, towards the high end mythic players, you're cutting out so much of the player base. And something that, you know, what was really nice in Classic and Retail and Classic and TBC and Wrath was that, you know, there was, you know, one or two versions of the game, but, you know, there was still a lack of people at the end game, which was still okay because, you know, Nax was difficult at first. You know, there was a lot of people who couldn't get into that, and even when Wrath came out, there was people, you know, exactly, in tier 5 before it was nerfed, and you had all these difficulties in the game, but it still was one difficulty, right? So that's something that I think was so good about that era, and something that had definitely took a turn when you started to focus on that top echelon of players, which is also, like you said, partially our fault, because a lot of the people that were loud and saying like, oh, you know, harder equals better and this equals better, and that's not always the truth, right? That's not always the fact. I would argue that fun, you know, having a meaningful engagement is more important than just playing difficulty, right? So I think that's absolutely something that overall has shifted in the game. And then when you mentioned the part about add-ons, right? So something that's really interesting to me is like WoW is a very add-on heavy game, okay? And I've really taken a different look at this, Mega Man, because I've been trying to like understand it from your point of view, because I am someone who is like, oh, I love my add-ons, I love the way I have my game set up, but in a lot of ways, like, should WoW have so many add-ons? Shouldn't it be a game that has these things integrated so you don't really need it to have all these add-ons? And that is what I think what you're saying, right? It's like, it's not the fact that, you know, having all these add-ons is a bad thing. It's the fact that the game is like almost unplayable unless you have like, or, you know, certain add-ons, or it's not even like you can't even do this level of, you know, unless you have these weak auras, or if you have the
tried to match them as the game got older, right? They tried to incorporate things from add-ons because add-ons were so popular.
Right. And I think what you end up seeing is you have so many games out there that work so well without add-ons, and whatever add-ons they do have, they're merely cosmetic, or they're, you know, they're minor add-ons, where I feel like WoW, you know, a lot of the add, like DBM, right? And like a lot of people won't even play with you unless you have these add-ons installed, right? You know, DBM and weak auras,
and kind of trolling the raid if you
right, but like, you know,
I'm gonna be quite honest.
Is it WoW's fault for not having those things integrated in the game?
So here's
originally?
the problem with developers is that they don't understand how the game is going to be played before it comes out. Right? They have no clue how people are going to play it. You know, the reason why WoW was amazing because the developers made it. They had this image in their mind of what it was going to look like. And then the community totally altered that, right? Totally altered that. And because of that, and I will say that 90% of games I play, I I don't like the UI. I don't like how it works. I don't like the
Yeah.
interface at all, right? So I mod the fuck out of everything, dude.
That's cosmetic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, not just
Well, it's not just
cosmetic. No, I have 50 weak auras. I have like
No,
when we do
no.
arena,
When you said other games, right? When you said other games, like say for
no,
Skyrim.
like Skyrim. Skyrim, I modded it to the point where everything's different, right? Everything, right?
Basically,
so it's like
your HUD is so important, and you want things that you need to see quickly in the right places on the screen where your brain actually sees that, because everybody's so different. That's one thing that makes the add-ons amazing. Like,
it's
for
like
instance,
saying, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like,
Yeah.
basically, when vanilla first came out, there's a lot of people that have this belief that for some reason we didn't use add-ons, but I was using add-ons week 3. And in the beginning, you couldn't even have more than one bar showing without a freaking add-on. Like, the extra bars and sidebars that are in the options now didn't come for a couple few
You had the
months.
page scroll, right? Page scroll through your
you could scroll
Shift down,
through each of them, but that was it. And there's so many things like that I think, wow, if they did ever turn it off, they do themselves a huge disservice in what the community and the mod community can build for them that they can integrate.
So yeah, I just want to say I'm not arguing to turn off add-ons, and I think my main thing here, I'm fine with add-ons that give the player an option to manage their UI and things like that. But to me, I think because like a lot of people mentioned Final Fantasy and how that game does really well without add-ons, and that's one game to. But I think something that is fair criticism, in my opinion, is that a lot of people tend to use add-ons not just for UI but for boss fights, like DBM, weak auras and whatsoever that in my opinion make the encounter, I mean they without those add-ons makes encounter much more difficult, right?
Maybe
so
for the first 3 times you do it, maybe, but a lot of maybe some of it is so that I hear the DBM thing and I know what to do exactly, right? So
and for me, GTFO is my most important add-on, because I'll be just sitting there and I'll be like, I'm like, oh, I'm just okay, move,
yeah.
So that definitely makes it easier for me.
I think it gives you an advantage the first couple times you do a raid. Other than that, if you don't remember what the mechanics are after that, I feel like that's
smooth brain.
Right.
Brain.
I mean, not you, Bob. I'm just saying the people in general, right? I feel like it gives you an advantage the first couple times you do a raid, but then afterwards, isn't it the same? What's different? I don't know. I know all the mechanics now, whether I have the add-on or not. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah.
It kind of depends on the player at that point, though. But my point is, vanilla WoW had very similar mechanics though, Melderon, right? We can agree on that.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Overall,
I mean, there are some fights that are a little bit,
a little bit. I think if we're really looking at it mechanically, I would say, now granted, I didn't do Next and Classic. Okay, full disclosure, I wasn't excited to, and when I watched you guys do it, I will say this: I wasn't envious, not even a little. I'll get in a minute, okay, but when I look at those fights mechanically, yes, there were, I'd say, four horsemen, and Kel'Thuzad, and the Frost Dragon, I can't remember his name, would probably be
Saffron.
Yeah, Saffron would be the most mechanically complex fights overall, right? I mean,
Kel'Thuzad. I don't know if you said Kel'Thuzad.
He did,
yeah. Okay.
Overall, because even watching you guys do those fights, I may not know the mechanics, but I can get an idea. I'm gonna get these names like Carolina, she's kind of a DPS race. The spider,
Maxna, yeah,
it's all tank. It's a tank fight.
Yeah, it's a tank fight. The healing lock boss, because I can't remember his name.
Loatheb. Yep.
Loatheb, yeah. Okay, you just don't you have one spell every minute or something like that.
Yeah, that's a healer fight.
Yeah, but what I mean is they're easy to understand on a basic level. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say so.
But they do get harder at TBC, but the problem is now the way they're developing fights, again, this is what I said about difficulty. They have to make them so much harder now because they have to compensate for the fact, oh wait, these people have this add-on and they're to the point now where they're so difficult where you can't possibly do them without. Like the fights are not doable.
Sorry, I forgot we're talking about retail, and I don't think about retail at all, so it's hard for me.
I know, same. I'm trying to spin my brain.
Even Kata Bob, I would make this argument that this is where this culture really, because that's when Weekoras came in, right?
Yeah.
And, but you did play Mob 2, I know that. Well, okay, I'm assuming you played Mob 2.
I played Mob a little bit. I wasn't really a fan, to be honest.
Okay, well, okay. But you know what I'm saying. But you can, an intelligent person like yourself can assume if it's hard here and people are complaining about difficulty, it's a logical step. They're just going to keep making it harder and harder and harder, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we complain the most about. It's literally the most complained about thing, I would say, in World of Warcraft. It's either one of two things. It's either one, they're not catering enough to the hardcore audience. It's not hard enough. Or two, there's too many systems that are literally crushing the life out of people. It's two sides of the coin. And this is something I do think that retail does really, really badly. Okay? Because how I feel about retail, what I would say, it's this. It's designed for two player bases, right? It's designed for the, I want to eat this game up so much I'm always on, or two, I'm so casual I don't progress. It's for the mount collectors. It's for those people. It's for the every once in a while somebody may jump into LFR, like just for the sake of it. What they need to do, I feel, is focus on that other 80% of the player base that they're choking out. Is what I really think the biggest problem with retail is.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: I don't play it, right? So I don't know. What's wrong with doing heroic or normal? Is that or do you feel inside that you didn't really beat it unless it's on mythic? Because I understand that. I understand that mentality.
Yeah, me personally, I don't. Right? I don't feel that way at all. In fact, I feel the opposite way. I think mythic should be gotten rid of, and they should get rid of LFR, and there should just be normal and heroic. I think they're doing completely fine with just those two difficulties. I thought mythic was just catering to the hardcore player base because, again, difficulties always complained about.
But I guess that's my point. Is why is that a problem? Why is it a problem? And I'm just saying this. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking, why is it a problem if the top 10% or 1% has a mode for themselves? I don't like it personally. I think there should be less raid difficulties is the better. But I'm just wondering, someone who doesn't like mythic, what is the problem with someone having a game mode that they can do?
The problem I feel with that overall is because the way the game is structured, right? When you have such a hard difficulty, that's the one everybody indirectly wants. It's based that normal and heroic, those are just your starter rates. You're not going to try to go mythic? What a scrub you are.
It's basically
the mentality that you didn't really see the content unless you've done it on mythic.
Exactly. That's the basic mentality now. That's what's accepted, which is wrong, I feel. I've always felt that, what I've always wanted, realistically, I just want to be a normal 10-man. I just want to do raids with my friends. I don't care about, I don't want cutting edge. I don't want it. And the other problem with that is, because that's accepted, a lot of groups will not take you unless you have those achievements.
So the gatekeeping, right? So I think what happens is the gatekeeping that is caused, and the toxicity, I can honestly say, and I've seen it before, where if someone doesn't have the ahead of the curve achievement, you're a noob, you're a fucking pleb, why am I going to play with you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I get that for sure. These are all, what you're talking about, are all reasons why I stopped playing, right? It's not, all these things culminate into a and Wrath was the first that kind of really introduced a lot of these. I'm not saying Wrath is bad. Wrath is excellent, but it's the first expansion where it sowed the seeds of a lot of these problems.
Gear score add-on what came out during Wrath, if I remember right.
LFD, more than one raid difficulty. And I'm not saying it was bad then. It was good then. But all these things started pretty much, in my opinion. That was the beginning of the end, but no one knew because it was such a good expansion that it would go down from there, in my opinion. But
what I would make an argue about that, Melderon, I think a lot of the things that you're talking about, a lot of them were caused by the player base, though.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, Gear Score was made by a player. That wasn't something Blizzard did. And this is why I say the achievement spam and Gear Score were the most damaging things overall, because those stayed in the game overall, right? That became a part of it. And the problem with something like that is you can't fix that. But even in classic, I would make an argument to a certain degree. It's still true. Like, what are we thinking of? It's no like we don't want to relax in level unless you enjoy doing that. But the average player, anyone that wants to jump into WoW in any form, right? It's accepted that rush, rush, rush. It's like, what? We're skipping packs. Like, why are we skipping packs? It would take 5 minutes. No, man, we gotta get to the boss. We gotta get to the boss. But it could wipe us. Like, no, man, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Hey, it takes a lot. Like, just kill the pack and move on. But there's items when no, man, it's worth doing.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm referring to. I saw that wipe. I saw it. I'm like, just kill the packs. Like, it feels like there's this speedrun mentality that's been built so core into us that we can't let it go. The world buff meta, the toxicity in the PvP, no matter what part of the game, it's not the version of World of Warcraft that causes these things. It's us as a player base that has accepted it, and unfortunately, I don't know how you can get rid of that.
Yeah, right? This goes into what you're saying. One of your points here was that sometimes WoW players make WoW into more than a game. I think basically what happens is people get so their world revolves around this game so much, which can be a good or bad thing, right? To where they feel like they become the gatekeeper of who is better, who's good, and who's not. And there is a lot of toxicity around that, right, where people exclude other people because they feel that they're not on their level. And I think it started a long time ago where people it had that oh, look at this guy, he's a badass, he's got tier 3 on whatever, so and so. But then it gets to a point, right, where people will, like, just like in the real world, right, look down upon someone who's wearing clothes from, friggin' Walmart compared to someone wearing something from, I don't know, what do kids wear these days? The Gap, or I'm such a boomer, my God. I don't even
think that's...
whatever, yeah. So, but, like, I think it's that human nature, which can be a bad thing, in a lot of ways, and, almost that tribalism in a way, right? I mean, this is getting very psychological in it, but I think there's a lot, of human nature that goes into whether it's social media or video games. But at the end of the day, I think something that and this is why I think WoW has either been such a success, and for someone like yourself, I feel for you, man, because like one of the main things that I loved so much about WoW was playing it with other people, and for someone like yourself who unfortunately got a lot of backlash because of whatever reason, you were kind of forced to play that single player game, which in a lot of ways really isn't the way the game is meant to be played. But in retail, so many people play the game like that now because there's so much of that going on, right?
Well, it's not only that, but they allow you to do things solo.
Right, they do, right.
They encourage it more in retail, for sure.
And that's something that I think we don't talk about enough, and and I'm not going to sit here and say that WoW's the most toxic game. I think toxicity is on the internet no matter what. It's in a video game or whether it's on League of Legends. But I think it is something, unfortunately, that people are quicker to engage in online because there's no physical presence there. There's no compassion between human to human, and I think that's the unfortunate thing that happens when me and Melderon are listening to Lex Freeman podcasts about the same thing with Mark Zuckerberg on, and we were talking about how he wants the whole world to be a virtual connection and this, that, and other, when in reality you lose so much, right? I think, but it's another point. Right. But it's interesting. It is very interesting because I think at the end of the day, what ends up happening is you have these totally separate entities within WoW, wanting different things, right? One wants the end game to be this hard mode, this mythic content. Other people want it to be more accessible, and then the developers are stuck with trying to make the game for these two different groups, when in reality they leave out more than half of the percentage of the actual people playing.
Well, and see, and this is something I would said aiming in Classic, right? Because a lot of people would say, is Classic is it good for a casual player? No. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of parts of that are just going to stop people. Because, and this isn't something that I'm calling bad or good, depending on who you are. You have less options. for class variety. Like, because let's be honest, class balance isn't one of classic's strengths. It's not. Like, there's just no doubt in that.
Mhm.
And guess I'm not the only one that has noise up there. You're kind of forced into playing these roles. People would argue, well, that's what makes classic good. I don't think it does. I don't think you're doing anyone your favors, because I put myself in even playing SOM, and the reason I didn't play it, well, one of many reasons, was the fact, well, all you're doing is saying, oh, if you're a paladin, hey, guess what? You're holy. Oh, I don't like to heal. Well, reroll warrior. Why can't I DPS on my pally? There's a ret trait. Oh, dude, ret's horrible. Well, why? Like, well, I have a tank tree. Why can't? I mean, surely you think, nah, dude, that's warriors. But aren't warriors the best DPS? Yeah, that's classic. That's not fun. Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're right. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should change classic because of it, though.
Well,
I think that's classic. You know,
I would actually argue that it is fun.
Yeah.
You never played a warrior, Bob.
Well, yeah. Well, see,
True.
I think it comes down to what you expect to get out of the game. And for me, back in 2006, or whenever I first started playing WoW, it was incredibly casual because I only cared about leveling my character and exploring the world, right? And I think...
I wanted to apologize. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say, I think that, like, depending on what you want out of the game, it is whether you're going to feel if it's casual or not. So for me, when I first started playing the game, I really could care less what was happening at endgame, because I was so infatuated with this whole world that I just found that didn't even really matter to me. I just was, taking it at my own pace. And I think in that way, classic can be casual for depending on how your outlook is to the game, right?
Yeah, but I want to apologize. I didn't mean we shouldn't, like... now is the time where we can do different stuff, right? I think, like, with Classic Plus, if it ever happens, we can change things. But I guess what I meant was originally, when we wanted Classic to come back, like, we had to make sure it came back first the way it was played, right? Yeah.
Not to jump topics too much, but this is one of the things I felt, okay? When the whole hashtag no changes thing, right? I felt, okay, where do you draw that line? Now, when people, some things, yes, obviously, I'm not, I have my own personal wants, but I don't think it should be based on that, right? But what I will say is this, phase 1 was good, right? But some of the things that people got mad about, like, you guys are really going to throw a hissy fit over the loot trading and 2 extra slots because of the authenticator? Really? Like, and I think...
loot trading.
Yeah,
I think that was probably a very small subset of the vocal minority.
I was pissed about the bag slots, personally. Because inventory is very, like, important.
Do you have an authenticator?
I had one before it even came out.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So do I. I was just like,
I had one because I didn't want my shit hacked, right? But like, I really couldn't care about the loot trading. But like the inventory thing was kind of like, you just like your mount, you have to earn it. You have to earn more slots. That was my point. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like,
yeah.
And, I get that people have that thing. And for me, someone like me, I don't look at it like that big of a deal. Like, because what it's instead of 16, you have 20, so that's 3, I think. So it's not, But even sometimes I think that decisions we push, like, I'll say 2 specific things, and spell batching. Everyone cheered about this, and my thought was, isn't that a program that was meant for lag from 2004? Is this really a good idea? That sounds like that could be easily abused.
Yeah, it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It absolutely.
Yeah, and I do want to speak on this. I didn't hear one person saying it was a bad idea right off the start. So, but now everybody.
To be fair, Bob, I don't think anybody knew what the fuck they were saying. They were like, no one knew what they meant. You know what I mean? Like, because when they first came out and said, like, oh, we're going to do this spell batching window because blah, 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 lag from 2004, everyone was like, what? Okay, what? And then we saw it in practice, and we were like, dude, this is terrible because it's artificially created lag. That's what it is, right? And it's dumb.
As
Like,
an Ellie
I don't
Shaman,
think
I
we
loved
knew.
it. I loved the
What's
Ellie
that?
Shaman burst.
Oh,
But
Ellie Shaman batching is possible without the
right,
the
that's
batch.
true. That's true. Okay,
It
yeah,
has nothing
so,
to do
yeah.
with that.
Mhm.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
because that wasn't taken out until TBC. It's in the patch notes. It's actually in the patch
Mhm.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like things like that. And another thing I kind of wanted to touch on just a little bit more on SON. I know I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. But I have to ask this, and I'm just going to give my piece on this, and I truly want to know what your guys' takes on this was. I think that hashtag no changes for phase 1 was good, right? Phase 1. But the moment phase 2 happened and they saw all the things that were happening on those servers, they should have said, okay, stop. We need to step in now because this is horrible for the game.
You mean the PvP stuff?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Because
I think we're still dealing with the I'm sorry to interrupt.
Exactly.
We're still dealing with the Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
And I was gonna point this out, and I wanted to know your guys' take. Because when I heard, the first thing I thought when they said, "Oh yeah, no battlegrounds for the first 2 weeks, world PvP," and I'm like, "Oh dear God, are they insane?
Yeah.
Like, what is no, go like." I mean, I was
Well,
like,
yeah. To be fair, it was fine until they incorporated the honor system.
Yeah.
Then it
Exactly.
became
So
terrible.
so
That
let
was
me
the- yeah.
let me just tackle this step by step real quick. So the hashtag no changes, the reason why I think a lot of people were on board with that, including myself and Melderon, was because we saw what no changes looked like on Nost and on these other servers that tried to keep as much as and they did have some changes, right? They did have some things that were different. Absolutely they did. But for the most part, what no changes meant to me and meant to Melderon, it meant keeping the authentic experience of Classic, not the authentic reality of Classic, but the authentic experience, which means that for me at least, what it meant was to have that feeling of what it felt like playing back then. Obviously, we're never going to recapture the exact Classic feeling of what it actually was in Classic and what actually happened, like day for day and all these things. But I think for a lot of people, including myself, I wanted to make it feel like Classic in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is I wanted to basically play Classic and have a lot of these things that were like the feel of the game, whether it be from world buffs and this and other. Now in actuality, what happened, right, is that we got the Classic that we got, and a lot of things we could say, okay, this was a bad thing, like this even though this was the way it was with the batching and this and another, this is a very bad implementation by Blizzard to try to keep the authenticity. When I think in a lot of ways, a lot of private servers like Nos and like Light's Hope did a better job at making Classic still feel like Classic, but putting it in today's world, right? So
all Blizz had to do was hire the Nos team.
And I say that like I mean, you look at the battlegrounds, right? You look at how much more fun like AV was. You look at how much better even sometimes like the server stability was, which is crazy to me. And we can argue about that another day. But I think the main point is like the batching window that they had on private servers to me was perfect. It was so much better.
I'm not joking.
It was smaller though, but for me, like the no changes meant something very different to me. I wasn't even thinking about the authentic experience. What I was thinking about is these are the guys that run retail. I don't want them touching shit.
Yes, like, that was my big fear too.
I was like, there are changes that I want. I want dual spec. It was the best thing ever put in World of Warcraft. Period. But like, I wanted that, but like, I didn't want to like take that and then get everything else. Like,
right.
Like if they had it, they would have had looking for group in from day one. Like
exactly.
So like, yeah, that's why I was on the no changes. Because my fear, I had no confidence in them.
Yeah, when Blizz interviewed the Nos team, and they were like, "Oh, you had a successful private server that had over 2 million accounts on a legal blah blah blah." Thanks, guys. We're gonna do it ourselves. I would like if I was in that meeting, I'd be like, hire these guys right now. Hire them. They can work from France. doesn't matter. Like they hire them and that's it. End of story. Why that didn't happen, I have no idea.
I don't know
Not a clue.
why. Because
Yeah.
the old Blizzard would have done that. Like they hired. I don't know if you guys
They hired
watched
Ian Hazzikostas. He was the head of a guild.
Okay,
Yep.
Taryn
Yeah,
Gregory, the guy that recently did the interview about the original Black Temple.
Oh, I love
cinematic.
that. I love that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was a guy that did a fan movie
Yep.
during
Yes.
during Vanilla. Went to BlizzCon, ran into Mike. Mike hired him.
Yep. Yep.
Like, and that's the type of stuff, like, you know, and that's the type of stuff that you can like run into, and like, but now they're all about like money, engagement metrics, all of this other shit, instead of something to build something people love.
Well, that's why the Microsoft not to go into this too much, but that's why I have real hope for the Microsoft purchase, because I know they look at business very differently than Blizzard does. Because my understanding, it's the exact opposite of Blizzard. They care about more retention of people long term than they do. But what I wanted to kind of say on this, like, what if it were me? Okay, this is me. If I were to say changes that I want to see, right? I would have said three things. Yes, dual spec. Okay, that's my one selfish one. Okay, that's one selfish one. Okay, this is what I would have said about world buffs. Okay, I would have made it so they just drop in every major city every 2 hours. That's what I would have said, or every 3, just so you don't have people doing that. A lot of people.
Like real quick to throw in here, Yip on Warcraft Reloaded just this last Friday had a really good point that he made. He said, if they had given us, so in the beginning, nobody got world buffs, like, and slowly it was basically like quiet peer pressure. Like these people are outperforming you, so you decide, oh, I'm gonna go get buffs, yada yada yada, and it just grew into where everybody was getting buffs. But if they had put the Chrono Boom in from the start, everyone would be like, Blizzard's the fault for the world buff meta. They put in this Chrono Boom thing, like, and it would turn around. Like, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, in like those types of situations.
Well, see, I mean, overall, though, I think they needed to look at the health of the game and the servers as a whole. That's what I really feel they didn't do enough of. I think at a certain point, what they should have done is say, okay, this is obviously bad for the game. Like, this isn't even good. Everyone's complaining about this, and we need to do something. The problem with Blizzard, they wait too long to do something.
Way too long.
Way too long.
We got Chrono Boom, 2 weeks before the pre-patch?
Yeah, right.
TBC.
It's like, yeah.
There would have been a good, if they put that out during the AQ times, it would have, like, I think that would have been the best win-win for them, because at that point they weren't at fault for the actual world buff meta.
Let me ask this, just for the sake of argument. So if Blizzard tomorrow, like, let's pretend, I don't know, like, we'll say around BWL, just for the sake of argument. If they were to say, okay, we know you guys don't like this, okay? Everybody doesn't like this promotes toxic gameplay. This isn't good overall. So if we were to say, okay, how about we just say every world buff drops in every major city every 2 hours?
Well, they did that in China.
They did that.
That was also very similar to how it was on private servers. They didn't do it like that, but there was no cooldown. There was no cooldown, which was perfect, I thought.
Yeah, so here's a hot
take. In China, they actually made it to where it just went off every hour in Stormwind.
Wow.
Why not? Like,
China's run by a different corporation, so it's like it's Blizzard's rights, but it's so
they pay Blizzard they pay Blizzard for the rights, but they run everything.
Yeah, so here's a hot take. I think that world buffs. Let me preface this by telling you I don't like world buffs. Okay, so I think everyone knows that.
Yeah,
but I think world buffs made vanilla more popular than it would have without it, because what it did was it pressed people to play at a level that was not inherently endemic to vanilla, and it also ran the speedrun meta, which in turn was a positive feedback loop that made people want to play more competitively. And I'm not saying that it's popular in terms of the average person, but it's definitely more people were watching on Twitch, more people were engaged in speedruns, and wanted to watch. I watched every Onslaught speedrun because I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, because like they used tactics and stuff that I was like blown away by the stuff they did, and not just Onslaught, right? Like Sarth became a streamer because of speedrunning, right? Sarth's a great guy, but he became famous because of that. And you know, like you said, and you're not saying Mega Man to get rid of them. You're saying make it easier to get, which I'm all for, right?
That's what I would say. Like, because I understand, because that was my other point. Like, yes, this makes the speed running possible, and I know that's a very good one of the reasons that SOM didn't have a hardcore scene is because of that. I'm saying just take away. I would say two things: world buffs. Okay, just two.
Hold on, I gotta stop you there. SOM had the most hardest of hardcore.
Oh, you're
did the road to rag. I know exactly what he's talking about now, but I wouldn't use that word just because that's the hardcore mode.
let me rephrase it. Didn't have a speed run meta, a raid speed run meta. Am I okay with saying that, Bob?
Perfect.
Okay with that? Am I good? Okay. So this is what I would say. Keep the world buffs in. Have them drop every 3 hours in every major city. So you don't have to have this top. And also, I would say make them undispellable.
Undispellable, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing I would say. Like with world buffs, because I think they're cool. I just don't think it's healthy. It promotes toxic gameplay, for one. That someone just wants to sit there and just spam, I'm ruining someone's day, dispel.
Yeah, those people have a special ring of hell that they're going to go to. And...
I don't have any pity for those people. You know, if someone, and like you've said several times, Melderon, if someone can kill you with world buffs, your world buffs on, more power to them. They've earned that right. And no, I don't think they should last through death either. Part of me kind of wishes they did, but I also see the too much bad with that, because then what I would say though, right? I do think they should have let the city thing, and maybe let you have the Chrono Boom in early. Yeah, early, like about BWL. The other thing I would say, I want to talk about, and this is the big one I really want to talk about, is PvP. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, because I know I'm more of a casual player, but I want to ask you, do you think the classic PvP system is good?
And then you mean the vanilla one? It's absolutely terrible.
It's horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Horrible.
We're on the same page. I just want to be sure, because I know I'm more a casual player, and I know that there's people that will defend that for some reason.
We're not those people. Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about Bob, but yeah.
Other caveats.
It's a perfect system. I don't know what you're talking about. I think it rewards the people that are willing to almost die to complete the challenge. And you know what?
He's trolling.
If you can't hang, you can't hang.
Bob, how would you drink?
If you can't tell I'm trolling, oh my god! Yes, it is. It was a horrible, horrible system.
So this is what I would say, but I do want to bring up two things, okay? Because I know there are people that are going to say, "Oh, I'm a filthy casual." Like, no. First off, let me clarify something. I got Marshall. I got to rank 12.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let alone I was on a PvE server. Okay. I played on Old Blanchy. I can tell you that I still look back and I can't decide if what I did was a good idea or if there was something insanity. And it's horrible, because this is what I told myself. I don't want to do that grind. But I just want the rep rewards, right? Like, okay, the rep rewards.
I went to 11. Trust me, I know. I didn't get 12.
It was actually kind of easier for because Old Blanchy doesn't. It's a PvE server, so we didn't really have the aggressive PvP scene. Now, this is what happened. Okay, so I got the rep rewards, and before I know, I'm already ranked 10, and I'm not getting good drops. This was my life. Okay. Cue Warsong. Every 5 Warsong, I would go to that instance in Stormwind, do that run just for repairs. That was my life. It was 8 hours every single day, sometimes longer, and there was points where I almost killed myself. Like it was bad. The only reason I stopped was because my computer went down, and what really killed me for it was the fact that I was ranked 50% ranked 13, right? My computer went down for a week. I was at 13%. Like,
Damn.
Well, and what's
Yeah.
and you're talking about this was the original vanilla, right? So
no,
what's
no,
even
this
oh,
is
it's
classic.
classic?
Yeah, this is classic.
Interesting, because I'm actually Old Blanchie. How populated was that for your faction?
It was well, it was a PVE server. We were mainly Alliance.
But do you know? Yeah, but do you know like how many actual people were on your server? Like
Um,
all and only Alliance matters. The
um,
reason the here why you think the reason that I'm asking is
mhm.
because on White Man playing like that, you would have had no chance to get Marshall. You
Yeah.
would have never hit the cap. The only people that were hitting the cap on White Main were doing pre-maids
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
entire 12
Not
hours
just that,
and
Bob. They were
winning
doing
all,
other things
every
too.
game.
No, I
Yeah,
know.
but I mean,
Yeah.
well, okay, but for Melderon, you
Yeah.
might have been a bit different because your queues were like longer and
No,
stuff. Like
no,
Alliance
yeah,
queues were
okay.
fast.
True, I
So
forgot
like,
about that. Yeah.
so specifically, because every server is different. Specifically on White Maid, the only people that had a chance at the higher ranks were in pre-maids the entire time. They were doing it 12 hours an AM day, and then like that was the only possible way. You would have never made it. Like you could have made it to rank 11 doing solo, but that would have been it.
Um,
On the
hold
Horde
on.
side, the pre-made thing was a thing too, Bob, but then on top of that, we had the bracket boost. That was the other
Yep,
thing
the
we did.
bracket. It was like impossible without the bracket
Yeah,
boost.
there were
Yeah.
lots of people doing that.
Yeah.
That stuff. That was happening on White Main also. But there
Just
was a
how,
lot of people controlling it too. There
but
It was
were
a Mafia. It was a complete
but
Mafia.
just that
Yeah.
doesn't that just
Yeah.
prove how bad the system was? That
Oh,
it was like
100%.
Oh,
literally
yeah.
not
And on top of
possible
everything,
without
it doesn't reward skill.
Yeah.
All it rewards is like your ability
Yeah,
to poop
time.
stuff.
I'm gonna go to the
that's all
bathroom real
it
quick. But
does.
Melderon, can you
Yeah.
explain what bracket boosting is for people who don't know? I'll be right back.
Yeah,
with you,
so
okay?
basically you artificially inflate the bracket by creating alliance character. So you have an alliance character, that's the level that you get honor, which is level 10. You
It's
have
either
that
10 or 11, something like that.
yeah, you have that character and you have a bot that spawns. You have it run to somewhere in Duratar, and you have it die at the graveyard, right at the graveyard. And as soon as it dies, you have a bot script that says release spirit, that corpse reses. And you have 40 people in a raid group that sit there, and we all kill that guy. You create level ones. You create a level one, run it to Duratar where the graveyard is. You are in a 40-man group. You kill that guy over and until you get 10 honorable kills, which means you go onto the bracket. You delete that character. You make another level one. You run it all the way to Duratar. You do the same thing over and over again. And what happens is, before they made a change, even if the character was deleted, they still existed in the bracket, and you would boost that first bracket up, so it was easier to get honor, basically, to get ranks.
And some
that's how you did it. Yeah.
Some services even went as far as fly hacking a ton of bots. Like I know you've seen the YouTube videos
Oh
of
yeah.
just the
Yeah.
like dwarves flying off into the sunset.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, see,
There's a lot of shenanigans going on for brackets.
yeah, see, they didn't fix it though. Remember, because they were going to, and then the backlash was so bad. Like, yeah, like we just kind of we won't do it. Oh, and to answer your question, Melderon or
Mhm.
Defcamp or any
Bob.
walks
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has
he can still hear you. He can
wireless
still hear you.
headphones. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the population in Old Blanchie on the classic archives, it was 1,561 for the server. There was 912 alliance and 649 horde.
And
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
so
yeah.
so then you have to determine how many of those people are actually PvPing, and then so
Yeah.
it's a pretty small-ish.
Yeah,
bracket.
it was a
Yeah.
pretty lax bracket in comparison to something like Warmead. But
Yeah.
even doing that as an individual player, it's still like
Oh,
and
it's still a lot of work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I mean, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, and I was discouraged because a friend of mine, because funny story, we would get into arguments about this, by the way. He got Grand Marshal, to be fair, though. He would get, because RNG can screw you over, is the other part of that. Because I understood very quickly, okay, the most consistent way to get honor, right? You don't care about actually killing players. You just want to finish the BG as fast as possible. Whether you win or lose, you just want to get that honor there, right? So what would happen to me a lot of times is Horde would just decide to play Keep Away the Flag and run around and like, hey, I've been in this war song for 45 minutes. Well, this kills my honor per hour. Great.
Yeah.
Like a guess. Like, there's nothing about that. And also, I have another story. So I met the PvP Mafia on my server because there was one, obviously, right? It's not a big group, but it still existed. So when I was hitting rank, I think it was right before I hit rank, 12, they said, can you please stop? You're about to hit. You're about to brag. Oh, crap. I don't want to do that. I said, I'm sorry. Now, a friend of mine, he didn't listen. Now, he didn't understand how the honor system went. The way he looked at it is like, no, he just wants me to stop so he can win. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Listen to me, please. And he pissed off about it, right? So he got spam reported and suspended.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh no, and I got one better. And I'm gonna talk about SOM, right? And this happened to him on SOM, right? And all he wanted to do, he just wanted to do his quest in AV to get his polearm for 51, right? That's all he wanted to do. And he got spam reported and got banned for a month. Like,
yeah, you don't mess around with the bracket system, people, man.
Right. And this
we had this one guy, man, this shaman. My God, he just kept not listening. Like he just. Kept
I know you're talking about.
Like, yeah, and they had a squad. Like, so we were 100% Horde, right? But there was a squad of like Alliance alts that would just camp this guy all day if he wasn't
night
in VG,
and
right?
day. They would go to Orgrimmar, they would camp him. They would go to wherever he's farming. They would camp him. They made his life miserable.
Horde server.
All the Horde people wouldn't kill them because they know that these are the same people.
This is a second account.
These were the same people.
Everyone was in cahoots with it.
Yeah, they were the same people that were trying to bracket. But yeah, you're right. I really want to talk about SOM, and so we're transitioning. I'm going to transition real quick, but I wanted to say, excellent points so far. I really think this is a lot of but the main thing I want to talk about really, and not the main thing, but one thing that I'm really just interested in and want to talk about is SOM did a lot of things to try to fix. They halved the PvP, which wasn't fixing the system. Honestly, is kind of just putting a band-aid on it, right? By having it. They heard the player base. They said, okay, let's. A lot of people wanted to try raids without world buffs. They wanted to try bosses with new difficulties in this and another. And yet we see that SOM is, not, like we can say, maybe not doing well. There's people who still play it. There's people who love it, but there's basically, a couple servers that are going right now.
Oh my God, it's dropped even more.
Yeah, it has. And
it's on life support. Yeah.
So my main question is why? Why, a lot of people will say it's too early, right? It's too early. A lot of people will say, it's because TVC is doing well, but the main question is, was it not different enough? Was it too different? Was it too early? What do you guys think?
It was
too soon. The easiest answer.
That's one big one, right? Like, why would you bring it out before Wrath's done? Like, that's just, I never understood that. Number two, and this is the biggest one, and this is what a lot of us warned Blizzard about, was you change a game like WoW that has a lot of interconnected variables and you change more than one variable, you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. And instead of just making the game shorter and keeping it how it was, or keeping the game long and then, making the raids a little bit harder, they changed two very important things. They made the cadence too short. They shortened the cadence and made the raids harder. In my opinion, that was the dumbest decision they could have ever made. If they really wanted to be successful, number one, they would have released it later. But second would be pick one of them. Keep world buffs in, keep the raid difficulty the same, make the cadence shorter, or keep the cadence the same length and then take away world buffs, and maybe tweak the bosses. But you're messing with 3 variables: world buffs, time, and boss mechanics. And when you mess with 3 things at once, you're destined to fail, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Mega Man.
Oh, I was gonna let Bob go before me because I.
Oh no, I'm just I honestly just think it was too soon. Like it intrigued me, the thought of it, and everything. But like, I mean, I wouldn't even have played Season of Mastery if it wasn't for hardcore.
Same.
Hardcore
Same.
was like a super neat experience. Something I'd never done anything like that. Like, but if I was coming back for Season of Mastery, the 100% XP, change that they've done recently would have been awesome. I would have actually even liked 200%. Like, get me to the end game as fast as humanly possible. Let me start
Especially
doing
if you're
3
shorting
this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
like, so it just depends on what you're looking for from the game. And I think the only reason they didn't have me and many other people is because it was too soon. And I would have loved to see, like, my biggest problem with world buffs was just the fact that if you died, your night's kind of like shit from that point on. You're bored. You're like, okay, well, this sucks. I could have done this, this, and this, but now I'm just sitting here, you know, trying to do the best I can. But it basically just made the game like lame as soon as you died. And I know it was exciting for speed runs, but like it was just exciting for speed runs, like to lose your buffs like that. Like, so for everybody else, I thought it sucked. It made things toxic for you people, like, because then you're really looking for who made a mistake, and you're mad at them, and that just takes the fun out of the game, or it took the fun out of the game for me. So that's the only reason I didn't like them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of
Okay.
rambling, but basically, long story short, too soon.
Okay. I want to go in like first off before I begin, because I'm gonna say some things that might sound a little offensive to the hardcore community. I want to make state something very very clear. One, I think it is wonderful that the hardcore community exists. I think it is an amazing thing, and I applaud Cargos for creating that. I think it's a wonderful community. I think it's a wonderful gameplay mode. And it's very different if that's how you want to experience the game in that way. I think it's unique and wonderful. However, I have 3 points I want to hit on. One, I don't think, as I agree with Melderon, I think unfortunately what SOM did indirectly was increase all the bad points of Classic. Because I don't think enough was changed. Right?
Yeah.
Because when I looked at SOM, what they could have done, I was thinking buffed raids, that's cool, right? But the problem is, when you do that, you make the stronger classes stronger and the weaker ones weaker. Because what I wanted to see them do something like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the private server Vanilla Plus, right? Like, what I look at a lot of stuff that they did there. Why didn't they do that? Like, the talent trees are completely redone. You can tank as a shaman, you can tank as a paladin, you can tank as a rogue, right? Like the talent trees are completely reworked. They do a lot of base things, like for every 3 intel, for example, you get 1 dispel power. Things like that. I want to see an entire revamp, because what you've done, essentially, and also there's a redo itemization. Whether you like Classic or not, I think for the most part we all can agree that overall itemization is bad in Classic. It's very bad for the most part. Like, it favors warriors as tanks. It favors rogues as DPS, obviously. But if you're doing something like a Retribution Paladin, a Boomy, or even a Feral chest, you can get away doing Feral tank, as long as the content's easy. But all those unique things go away. And like,
You just mean there's not enough items, not item, like, because the itemization changed, well, so there's way
Well, I think
less
he
like
means
worthless pieces.
like
You
tier
mean
pieces for paladins are worthless.
Yeah,
Stuff like
you
that.
mean different. Yeah, I got you now.
Like, what I mean is, like, why not bring in I'm gonna use paladins because it's a class I know the best. Like, let's say they have judgment, and you have your holy judgment, you have your retribution judgment, and then you have your protection judgment, or like Bloodfang, for example. Like, you have your tanking set and then your DPS one, or that have that system. That's something else they did. I think itemization overall could be looked at severely. That's half of that.
So I like what you said. I think where we agree is that I think they changed too much, but and you think they didn't change enough. But I think what we're both saying is either you change the game fundamentally, or you only change one thing at a time. Right? Those are the only two ways I think you get at success.
Exactly, and that's
you have to experiment. You have to experiment.
Exactly. Like, but that's just the thing. Like, because if you're gonna do an experiment, like don't do what SOM did. Like, it's not enough, because and unfortunately, SOM was hurt even more by the hardcore challenge, I think, fundamentally. Because this is what happened. Like it or not, and you both said this, you only played SOM for hardcore, right? Well, here's my question. What happens to players that aren't playing hardcore that just want to try it, right? Now, I'm not this person, but I can understand why they'd be upset. Like, and I'll give an example, right? Say I'm an Elven Forest. Oh, Hogger's there. Oh, I see. Like, it's already horrible because you have a limited player base, right? So a limited player base already is, like, because what? Now there's 9,131 people, down from 10,008, okay? So you have to have that again, because then you have about, 40% of that population, estimately, is about hardcore, right? So imagine the anger, and I would be this person too, for the record, like, oh man, I'm missing like one person to get that Dead Minds group. Like, I just really need that one person. And you see someone like, oh hey, hi, like, huh? I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, we got a group of 4. Like, do you want to do this Dead Mind runs with us? I'm like, oh, hardcore? What? No. Oh, sorry, man, can't. But why? You.
Let me.
That's the one downside to hardcore, in my opinion.
It is a downside, but let me take it a step further. So something that drives me nuts in TBC, vanilla, all of it. I get irked so bad when I just get a tell from somebody that says INV. And maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. But I'm just like,
what?
Do you just assume that I'm going to group with you? Like, say, hey, do you want to do this quest together? Or, hey, do you want to do this and that? But everybody just assumes that you're just going to group up with them. So me doing hardcore, I would be doing the same exact thing I've been doing before. I wouldn't I wouldn't jump in a group with people for Augur.
I kind of disagree there a little bit, because like usually if someone sends me that, it's like clearly evident what they want. Like I'm doing a quest and they're like, hey, it's an escort or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, let's do it together. I don't know.
Before we go,
I was there first. I don't care that they just showed up. Like, make me want to add you. Like, sorry, dude, I don't owe you shit. You know, and that's how I kind of feel about it. And like I prefaced it with, maybe I'm an asshole, but like that's how I feel. I don't like the little short interactions with people. Like, if it was me, I would say, hey, dude, is there any chance I could join you for this? I've been trying to get this done forever. And I would put a little bit of fucking effort into it. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on this.
No, like, I get, maybe I'm weird like this, but is that how that works now? Like, do people just say invite? They don't say hi or anything?
Well, it depends, right? It depends. But before we go, I want to make a clear point as the, SOM and hardcore obviously are separate things, but I wanted to say something. I think this is all the more reason why we need to have hardcore servers.
Absolutely. I agree.
I think that, I think when it comes down to it, hardcore is the reason why it's been one of the most, thing that I've loved doing in such a long time, is because the community is so strong. And what ended up happening, right, is like you had a lot of people, like I think Wiki was just saying, people who were non-hardcore players went to other servers, and now what hardcore has basically, they have their own server basically, which is the one we were all playing on, Obsidian Edge, right? So I think that, when we look at hardcore and we look at SOM, we have to separate those two things, because they're obviously, at the core different. But I think one thing with SOM, and like, even though we say, maybe it was, a mistake, but even though I think it still succeeded in giving us information, right? Because like the fact that they experimented on this, to me, is a good thing, because it tells us what works and what doesn't, right? And I completely agree with you, Mega Man. I think 100% what they should have done is made along the lines, maybe not so now, fresh classic servers that were, classic, but maybe had a little bit of differences that were like, obviously they didn't have the season 2. They started with Battlegrounds. They did things a little bit different, and then they did something else where they experimented like a lot, right? Where I would have loved to see something like you said that had the classic world, right? So you had Azeroth, but you had what we love about Wrath and how different each class feels, and TBC integrated into that world, right? And we talked about even having like low level raids, right? Like SFK raids and things like that. I would have loved to see Noob exactly Core. So what Jamin's doing with Noob Core, integrate that. So like I would have loved to see them doing a new Classic Plus, to where you had all these things that we loved about Classic, all these things that we loved about TBC, all the things that I loved about retail, and even like I said, even Wrath and retail, things that work, right? Things are the systems that work, and try to make something new with that in the Classic world. But also at the same time, I think it's very important to have Classic alive as well, still at its core, like kind of what private servers were doing, but fresh and keeping that new, right?
But like, what scares me is, I think you're right. I think it's great. It's great data. What scares me is that Blizzard's going to see this as a failure and just not mess with like stuff going.
Yeah, it's possible.
Forward, and that scares the shit out of me, because I want something when Wrath's over. But I'm still like, I'm messing around with other stuff, but like nothing's going to pull me away from experiencing Wrath in its entirety, and I have a ton more time than most people, so it's gonna hurt a lot of people, I think.
And something else I kind of wanted to touch on, like, really quick, and this is something I'm gonna ask you guys again, because maybe this is me and being a little bit too pessimistic. Why did everybody look at what they did for SOM and just make it sound like this revolutionary thing? Because when I look at SOM, this is going to sound really mean of me, but I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy and desperate in a lot of ways. Like,
it is, because retail's dying. They're trying to pinch every money they can from people.
Well, why is retail dying, though? It's
that's a complex question, right?
It's like, but I mean, there are similarities, but that's not here nor there right now. But what I want to say is, I think, like, what did they actually do? Okay, so they made leveling easier, but they didn't increase the money until after the second buff.
They made leveling easier months after the game came out, by the way. Not right away.
No, they made it twice. They did it.
Well, so it launched with their Quest XP. Now it's like
40% more Quest XP. Now it's 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Well, easier. 40% is still easier, but it's not.
Sure. Yeah.
Speed running, right? And they didn't do the money.
It's not necessarily easier. It's just faster.
Well, faster, easier.
I guess you don't have to do all the hard quests.
Yeah, I mean,
but it still just feels like time.
Yeah, agreed. Like,
I don't know.
It's easier, as in takes less time, but it's not different at all. You know what I mean? Sure, there are some quests you can skip, and money isn't as an issue. And this is what I don't get. They made the mount cheaper because of that, but when they put the experience increase, they didn't think to increase the money.
Or lessen training costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that would make complete sense if you're going to make leveling shorter.
Right.
Yeah.
I assume they do that, if I'm being honest. When I heard about that, did they decrease the cost? Like, no. Why wouldn't they do that? That's common sense. Like, whether you be a game designer or not, like,
I'll be the devil's advocate and say at least a week later after making the change, they upped all gold drops from mobs. So like, or not gold drops.
But I think the point is that this should be common knowledge. This should have been seen from a mile away. This was going to be a problem.
And here's the other thing: the PvP system. I really want to nail this hard home. Like, there's so many different ways they could have done this in Classic or in SOM, right? Like a million different ways. The fact that they didn't, it'll be fine. We'll just increase it by 20%. Did you not see what happened? Did you?
Well, here,
Did
give us some examples of what they could have done better. I think that would be more constructive.
Okay, so this is if I were to change the PvP system, right, in Classic or in SOM, this is what I would have done. One, I would have said you're not getting the epic gear until AQ comes out. For one, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would have left the reputation stuff. I don't think it. You still have to grind for it, whether it be one of the better weapons. There is better stuff. Yes, the loot table is limited, but I don't think you can make arguments here and there. There's a ton of stuff you can say. So, but I would still leave the rotation in. Okay. That's
Well, it just depends. Like the Aldrich Valley rewards,
yeah.
Easy Town. The
Oh, yeah.
Warsaw Gulch rewards, the
Almost
Arathi Basin
impossible.
rewards.
Yeah.
Fucking
Still not
crazy
exalted
person
with the
doing those.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Yeah, like,
it's such a vast difference between those different reps.
Agreed. Yes, I, for the record, I got exalted with every single one of those. Just to be clear.
You have to get rank 13, pretty much.
Yeah, like it's gonna happen. But so I would have said, okay, you only get the blue rewards, and I would have put blue weapons, okay, and I would have made them equivalent to ZG. And the reason I would have done ZG is like, okay, it's not the best stuff. You can still get upgrades in MC, but it still feels good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't validate all the gear. Then when AQ comes out, that's when I would have brought in the epic. And the reason I would have done this is because I would have changed how honor works. I would have done an honor cap system. Now the numbers I'm going to throw out are all random, okay? I would have said ranks 1 through 10 will say 10,000 honor each, okay? Like just for the sake of argument, right? And I would put the blue weapons, we'll say rank 12. I can't remember exactly what pieces you get where, okay? But here's the thing, the most important part, there's no 20% degradation, and when you get that cap, you're done, right? And you can't go past rank 10 in one session, meaning you, at minimum, you're going to take 3 weeks to get to Grand Marshal. But it doesn't matter as much because that gear is not so powerful that it invalidates everything else. You're still going to want to raid, making PvP more of a catch-up mechanism. You take away the honor cap system, you take away that toxicity. The other thing I would have said, okay, all the gear is at rank 13, not 14. Because what I would have done, if the argument is that the reason why this gear is, or prestige is there, why does it have to be player power? I would have said, okay, do a really cool mount. Like, you could even do something like the Spectral Tiger. I know I'm really touching on something really rare there, right? I know that.
Something different, right? You're just saying a rare mount, yeah.
Yeah, or I don't know, like Infernal Gladiator. Like, or Infernal Grand Marshal, or High Warlord, something cosmetic, something to make people stick out. However, to get to rank 14, that's where I would have put in kind of its own progression system, like maybe the way arenas are done. Like maybe you have
like rated battlegrounds, something like that.
Like rated battlegrounds, something like that to get that raid to earn that reward. But it takes away that casual player incentive because most people just want it for the gear, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I would have done, if we're going to say that the cadence is increased without redoing the entire itemization, which would take who knows how long, right? Easy fixes. I would have put in a catch-up mechanism, not a fast one. So what I would do is for every single boss you kill, you get, we'll say, a special badge. Okay, a special badge, like kind of how they did badges back in Wrath, right? Just for the sake of argument, but specific for every single boss. After you kill that boss 10 times, okay, 10 times, 10 weeks, which is still slow, keep in mind, but at least it's something, you can pick one item from that boss's loot table. It goes directly to you, it bounds to you, and the other thing is, if you don't need anything from that boss, well, okay, you just pick the highest one that sells for gold. So it doesn't accelerate you a great deal, right? We're talking one extra item every 10
Are you talking personal loot right now?
No, not personal loot. Personal loot you have to earn. Personal loot automatically happens. This is something that you would have to go through. Like, personal loot is something that happens in retail now when every single time boss. I'm talking more of a badge system.
We've said retail way too many times though this podcast, and it makes me
I'm
throw up a little
sorry.
bit in my mouth every time.
I think what Mega Man's trying to get at is like,
Mhm.
and it comes back to, you know, they either did this in a poor way by picking the middle of the spectrum of things you could do, and not the one end, which I'm a fan of like change one variable.
Mhm.
And Mega Man wants a whole revamp of the game, not of revamp, but like he wants them to
It's
really think
very
about.
confusing. Like it's a lot of changes you're asking for
Right,
right
but
now.
I think that we get bogged down in like the explanations. I think it's just
Mhm.
better to be like, you either turn the game on its head and make it like so different that people are gonna be like, wow, I have to try this,
Mhm.
or you just say, okay, the cadence is sped up, but it's
I
still the
agree.
same. You know, still world buffs are in. You know, all these things.
So
And
yeah,
the fact is, they aimed for the middle, and it's like,
yeah.
what? It's
Well,
just,
I
there's-
think
yeah.
I think where this came from, right, is like when Classic was out and during Classic's lifetime, a lot of people were asking for Classic Plus, and I think Blizzard saw maybe like what way could we try to adhere to these people that are asking for Classic Plus or the people that love Classic, but without doing, you know, because obviously they're not going to throw a lot of money at this. They don't have the team. They wouldn't put like, right. So they probably did what they figured they could do for the least amount of cost. And what we got was a lot of halves, right? A lot of like, okay, we're increasing the cadence. But the thing that I do like about, you know, the Season of Mastery thing is that it could possibly, right, give us something in the future that could be really good, right? So I think
Your point is like, at least we got some data, but then Bob was like, what if they don't do it again? Because
and that's something I really hope doesn't happen, because as much as SOM, right, a lot of people think it's a failure. I do think there are some things that are really good about SOM, right? I think it was really cool that they were able to go in there and try to like redo boss fights and in the vein of like that boss's mechanics and whatnot. Now, you know, one thing that I think we do have to be very careful of, right, is like when we do ask for, you know, if they were to tackle something down the line like a Classic Plus, right, is to definitely look at what things worked and what things don't, right? And that's the data that we're getting here. Obviously, retail gives a lot of data as well as to what things don't work. I think people don't like to see all these antiquated systems, all these systems where there's so many of them, right? People don't like to see homogenization. People don't like to see the gatekeeping that comes with, you know, 4 types of fucking raids and all this things. So there's all the negatives of retail that we have, right, that we can learn from. There's all the positives and negatives of SOM that we can learn from, all the positives of Classic, and I think that's enough data, and hopefully where we could see something in the future, right? But like, obviously what we have coming next, right, which is something that a lot of people are waiting for, and the thing that I really wanted to, you know, finish with on the show is Wrath of Lich King. And I want to talk about, like, you know, why was Wrath of Lich King such a big success when it did come out, and why are so many people looking forward to that? But even though there are some things within Wrath that I look at, I'm like, I'm not big a fan of, you know, Trial of the Crusader. However, I do recognize that Wrath probably has some of the best class design and like feeling of class gameplay that we've ever gotten in all of WoW. So, you know, I'll take it to you guys. What is the things that you love or hate about Wrath, and why do you think it's going to be either more of a success than Classic or TPC or less? Bob, why don't you start off?
Oh man, this is
Dual
a
spec, dual spec, dual spec, dual spec. I mean, come on, dude. It's the best thing that was ever added to WoW. It would have made PvP servers on Classic be amazing. Ah, dude, dual spec. That's what I'm excited.
Hell yeah, dude. So
Man, he took mine, darn.
So dual spec is something where I you know, in the past have like, you know, said, oh, you know, it doesn't really belong in TPC, this and another. But like, as someone who has been playing TPC for a long time, at this point I would love to have dual spec in TPC, even if I had to unlock it for 1,000 gold or whatever. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Just imagine being able to walk. And that this is specific to PvP servers. Of like, unfortunately, on PvE servers, it might be like a completely different thing. But on PvP servers, when you actually had the opposite faction on each side, how cool would it have been to just go to each dungeon or each raid and be PvP spec'd on the way and be able to like actually fight and like I can't, like, I love PvP to death, but in Classic, I was Fury spec'd, and that's like a rogue without cooldowns. And so like I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm just not gonna fight. So I just keep walking, letting them kill me. All right, get a little bit closer next time. Whereas if I was PvP spec, I would have been going balls to the wall on the way there, and it would have had support from my guild. I mean, like it would have been awesome.
Hear my hot take on this whole thing?
Yeah.
What I think. Just as a little, I'm gonna ruffle a little feathers just to kind of go off your point, Bob. I think they should give us dual spec now, and tri spec in Wrath.
I mean,
I don't think that's necessary, to be honest.
I know it'd still be fun.
So you know my stance on this, Bob. I'm not a fan of dual spec, but not for the reasons you guys think. I don't want to gatekeep people and say like that's the way it was, or you should pay costs. No, I don't like the fact that you can change your raid comp in mid raid. That's the only reason I don't like it.
Which tri spec makes even worse.
Well,
yeah.
Like,
and if you're a class that can do all 3 roles, like that's just a little too much, you know. Like, how does that help a rogue? They have 2 different PvE specs and a PvE. Like,
well, I just think it's kind of like it's almost so we already min max everything already. That adds another level of min maxing. That's my issue with it.
Okay, that's fair. Well, okay, so this is something that see, this is my take on it. I kind of look like how many guilds would enforce that. Like, you know what I mean? But I also acknowledge, like, yeah, there's a lot of people that like to min-max. But this would be my 2 cents on that. So if they were to say, right, you just can't switch your spec once you're in raids, right?
I would be totally fine with it.
Yeah, right, that's my thing. It's very...
Yeah, we actually, Melderon and I actually had this conversation. You have like a PvE locked spec is probably the best way to do that.
I'm not saying the content's difficult, but I'm saying what's going to happen is people are going to tell you what your dual spec has to be.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
See, I get both sides of it. Here's the thing. Do I think that dual spec would do more good than bad, though? That's because this is one of the reasons I quit, right? Because everything was a grind. Right, now I'm not in the position you're in, Melderon. I'm a protection paladin. I'm not part of a guild that I don't get to do stuff with them. Like, I'll be honest, of all the streams I watch you guys do, this is gonna sound really weird, but you really want to know what I get the most envious about? This is gonna make you laugh.
The camaraderie?
That and one other thing. And it's actually something from Bob's stream, believe it or not.
I'm not sure, but that's the reason I keep playing is because of my guild, honestly. Like, the camaraderie is my most important thing in the game.
Farm runs I see you guys do. It's not the rating itself that makes me want to come back. Like, am I a little sad I'll never get to do BT? A little. Hyjal, sure. I'm not really losing much sleep over it. But I love watching you guys have so much fun when you're doing those farm runs and you're pulling stuff.
You've been watching the Black Temple trash farm.
You guys do that. Like, that's what I'm envious of.
And so you enjoyed the other day watching me go like, I'm the only one pulling and the only one kiting. God damn it!
Yeah,
I'm too tired now to do this.
Everyone's trying to get their free rings. Bob's fucking carrying everything.
Right, and the stream where I watched you in Defcamp kill Archimon, and I kept on, and finally I heard. Like you scream, Melderon, I put the freaking water totem down.
Oh my god, that's great. The Madden spring totem. That night was hilarious.
That was a good night. Yeah. That was funny. We had a good time.
So
yeah, we are like we should point that out. We are blessed. Like the the 3 of us talking here. We have extremely good guilds and extremely tight camaraderie in them. Like I hear different people talking about their guilds, and we are definitely lucky.
Yeah,
so.
To be honest, I wouldn't play if it wasn't for my guild.
Absolutely.
That's the part that I'm in. Like I'm in the camp that I can't always do all those dailies. I can't.
Yeah.
Like I already have the Nether Ring dailies unlocked just because I don't have my epic writing. Because I'm a prop pally and making gold as a prop pally is, well, one, makes me feel like shit. Sorry, am I allowed to?
No, you're
No,
fine.
yeah, you can say whatever you want, brother. Yeah.
Like,
I've dropped the F-bomb twice now.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I haven't yet. Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm too, believe it or
Uh.
not. Anyway, like, because how does a prop paladin make money? Most
You
of the
farm
time.
Skullomance or Stradon or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you use people.
Or you take dungeons, which is actually
you sell yourself. Yeah, you sell yourself.
You say you're an enchanter. You say I get everything nobody needs, and you sell all the enchanting bets.
All three of those make me feel like garbage. Like I this is me as a person, right?
Yeah.
One, doing the skull and strat farms, those videos make it look really easy. Like, sure, everyone says, oh, you just do it. One, if you've ever done those farms, especially learning them, what they don't tell you in those videos, you're going to die a lot while learning them.
Yeah, learning it,
yeah.
You will die a lot. I don't care. Like, when you see Grace for days, well, he's a WoW streamer. He's got the time to do that. I don't, and I have to pick what I do.
Just for it's okay. So now I'm good at it. The BT farm, but if you watch the first days I was doing it, I was dying constantly and like getting so frustrated.
I get that, and the thing is, right? For me, as a player, when all I get to do is the unfun stuff all the time, like Questions of Prop Paladin is miserable. Yes, I can respec to red if I want to, but then I have to get a second gear set on top of it. And I think the average player, like the people that aren't in guilds like you guys, deal with that a lot. Like, and I can tank dungeons, but that's a catch-22, because I could get really lucky and the group could go fine, or I could end up losing more money than I make.
Right.
See, I'm gonna go though and say that that's a good thing. You have to get a different gear set, though. I think that's another one of the problems with retail, that every gear set switches with your spec.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
You're saying you don't have time to do it.
Yeah, like I could get the second gear set. It would take me a little bit, but I'm a tank, so I can get blues and stuff. What the issue is, it's 100 gold every single time, right? So then it means I have to farm more.
50, or 50 and then 50 again. Right, yeah.
And it's not fun. That's the other part. Like a lot of people discount this. Doing those strat and skull farms, especially when you're learning, are very mentally and physically exhausting. They're not fun, and they're so draining. Like, the people that are good at it, that, pull 50 things at once, sure, they're good at it. They enjoy that. That's great for them, but your average player is not going to be that person. And I think
just to, let you know, anybody can do it. What those streamers and YouTubers don't show you is the hours and hours and hours of practice it took to finally be able to do it. They just show you the end result.
Yeah, agreed. And see, again, that's where I have to pick what I'm gonna do. Like, and do I really want to spend 8 hours or 5 hours just dying and repeating? It's mentally draining, exhausting, and it just.
I think one thing though, that WoW, and so one thing that I think, and this goes for any version of WoW, is like you really, you do get what you put into the game, right? And I think it's a good thing to have to work for things, but I do agree that it's, sometimes it can be a lot, like if you want to have to respec every week, and it does get kind of crazy. But I've always felt like, one thing that is very important about WoW to me is that you get what you put into it. And for some people, a lot of people don't want to put in work, and they want those immediate feel good things immediately, which I think has happened over more and more and more in retail, where you do a fucking daily quest and you get an epic piece of gear that upgrades the you know what I mean. So I think I think that one thing, it is good to work for things in WoW, and it has something very strongly to do with like actually feeling like you're you're getting something out of the content. But at the same time, I do understand what you're saying. But I wanted to just make another quick one, because we're getting close to time. But I wanted to ask you guys on something that I think.
I want to answer that question real quick, Defcamp. That's okay. What I like about Wrath.
Yeah. Well, no, we're still going to talk about that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Go ahead though. Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say that for me, why it was amazing was it's the aesthetics. It's the story.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna. Yeah. So that's what I was gonna bring up here was and this is, I think, very relevant to what also happened recently. I'm going to mention retail again before Bob throws up, but in retail, and I think why the story has such a big impact on the game, right? So recently, I don't know the whole thing. I watched the cinematic. There was like, it was like the talking about Wrath and the culmination of the story of Arthas. Basically, spoilers here, guys. Spoilers. So alert. Arthas turns into a fucking wisp. Sylvanas says "Be gone," thought, and he disappears. Right, and that's the end of the Arthas storyline. Something that I think was so big in Wrath and why so many people played it is because people who have played Warcraft 3 and the whole storyline, like, this was a huge fucking thing happening in Wrath of Lich King. The story, we got to see things like Wrathgate, because that guy who made that video back in Classic, forget his name, they create, like, the story itself was a huge reason, I think, for Wrath's success. I also think, like Melderon said, the ambiance, right, the feel of it, the fact that we got such amazing zones, such amazing dungeons. A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I think Wrath has some of the best dungeons. I think they have the best dungeons ever created in all of WoW. I also think that the music and the actual feel of the game is at its height in a lot of ways, right? It's Taron Gregory, thank you. Taron Gorfiend, yep. So for me, the story plays a big part in a game. It really does. And, I think this is why so many people look at Wrath and they see it in a very nostalgic light, but also respect that the story is a huge part of it. Do you guys agree with that? I mean...
I do. It's kind of to add to that, though, right? One thing I'm not going to talk about the story of retail, because let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to explode if I talk about it again.
Wait, is that the player with the sword in it?
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, Mega? What's up? So, this is how I feel. Do I think the narrative of World of Warcraft has ever been a main part of the game? The actual story? No. I don't think it's been a main part of the game, and I think that's one of the problems with it. Like, if you look back to even Classic, it doesn't really tell a story. Now, Wrath tells a story, BC kind of tell a story, Cataclysm does tell a story, it's just not well. There are parts of it that's good.
It's just not a good story.
It's not. And the thing about Final Fantasy that does very well, and I know, Melderon, you talk a lot about the journey, this is one thing that a lot of people, I don't think the story is better in retail. I think the story presentation is better in retail. Like when you
the presentation,
definitely.
They try to be better,
like the presentation of it. Like when you do a different area, you see changes at the end of that quest line, stuff like that. You actually see a progression of a journey happening.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Like when you go to Westfall, for example, right? In Classic, your experience in Westfall, as far as the player is concerned, is the same thing for everybody, right? Now, you may have player interactions that are different, right? That may make that different, but that's the actual narrative of the zone doesn't change for anybody.
Yeah.
It's no different, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. And this is one thing that Final Fantasy does a lot better. It makes you feel like you're part of something, like you're walking forward. You're getting to know these people, these characters, and actually grow with them.
It's very single player-esque, though. Like that's like a single player type of deal. Because
not in Wrath, though.
Yeah, but in an MMO, if the zone looks different to you than other people, then you're in a different instance of that zone now, and can no longer interact with people that haven't gotten past that part of the storyline.
I will grant you that. That is fair.
Yeah, the phasing,
Yeah, like, which we could talk forever about.
Oh, Wrath phasing. Seriously.
Yeah, like...
Yep,
yeah.
like, I could even take it back even crazier. So, like, something that's weird about WoW that wasn't a thing in, like, Ultima Online, is that the zones are so set up on a story, and that's why you could never have player housing in World of Warcraft, and anybody that ever wanted it, it didn't ever make sense. It made sense in Ultima Online because you could get a house right outside Britannia. You can't get a house in West in Westfall and be able to like interact with people in the world. World of Warcraft would have had to just make a zone just for housing, and who wants to go there?
Yeah.
Like you would have seen
Well, that was Worlds of Draenor.
people
Yeah, well,
questing,
kinda,
you know, like
Oh, my
next
God, pretty much.
to your house. Like that's where like housing works. I don't know. I took us on a little tangent, but
Yeah, I just think that like what we're trying to say, like there is phasing, right? But I think what we're trying to say is like you get on either a zeppelin or a boat, depending on your faction, and they're like, you got to kill this motherfucker in this castle.
Mhm.
He like killed millions of people. You know what I mean? Like he's a bad guy. It's like D-Day. You're coming to, you're hitting the beaches of Normandy, right? And you're like Hitler's in Berlin, and you have to get to Berlin, and it's like that's what Wrath feels like. And knowing that the whole player base knows how bad this guy is already, like no story, like you don't have to really tell a story at all. Like everyone knows who's played any Blizzard title, like how bad this guy, and that's why it's so good.
And then on top of that, you have the Death Knight
it.
storyline too, right? You have the hero, actual hero class for the first time. The Death Knight storyline, the kind of the arc, right, of being a minion of like the redemption arc of being a minion of actual Arthas, and then like committing yourself to kill him, right? So that's like such a cool redemption arc kind of thing.
And the hate,
right?
Everybody else for every Death Knight on the server that is super overpowered.
But I think like a look at like why was Wrath such an amazing experience for me, right? One of it is definitely the fact that it was when Melderon and I made our guild for the first time. Another fact is that I really do feel like the classes for me felt very like, even though I love TBC Priest like more than anything, I feel like I had so much love with Discipline Priest, but for the first time I really felt like I was able to play multiple characters in a really freeing way. I feel like Wrath was very alt friendly for me. I played a Discipline / Holy Priest. I played a Holy / Prot Paladin. I played a Resto / Feral Tank Druid, and I also played a Hunter. And I played 3 of those classes at rating 25 man's capabilities. So, and
I think a lot of it has to do with that you want to experience those zones again,
and
again, and again. Like it's like, and the questing was so well done, and I played multiple alts in Wrath too. I played a shaman. I had what else did I have?
A mage. You had the mage.
A mage.
Phobius, yep.
I played alts too. I had a 29 tweak paladin that had all the heirlooms, the absolute best gear I could have. And when you can take on 9 people in Arathi Basin as a level 29 red pally, it was a good time. I mean, there's so much, but sorry. I was going to tell you my other thing that I really am excited about, but I don't want to take it off if somebody else has something else they want to talk about here.
Sorry. See, for me, again, I'm looking at this from a single player. Keep that in mind. What I loved most about Wrath was actually everything you guys were saying. Because the other thing about Wrath, and a lot of people forget this, it was, at least in my opinion, it felt it was doing exactly what it set out to do. Like, when you look at the classes, they feel complete. There's just that little bit of homogenization where they feel finished, they don't need anything else, but they don't feel like... You don't feel like you're playing the same class, regardless of what you're doing. What I would say. The other half of that is, I agree with Defcamp. I love the dungeons in Wrath. Like, I love...
Oh my god, they're amazing.
And the other part of this is, and a lot of people miss this, I like how they made flying a feature. I love how they did that. Like, think of Ice Crown in Storm Peaks, right? You couldn't get to those zones, a lot of the places, without flying. That was such great design, and they've never done that since then.
Yeah, just Tempest Keep, right? That was the only place that was kind of inaccessible without flying, but in TBC.
There was a raid in Cataclysm. The one...
Everything later, isn't it like they just unlock flying after a certain amount of weeks or something? Like in all the retail expansions as of late.
It's behind quest, usually quest lines,
Like, to be fair, I would make an argument that game flying in retail now is actually harder than TBC in some ways.
Oh yeah,
right,
sure.
Yeah.
You just have to go to a trainer and buy it. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I wish they'd go back to that. I'll be honest, but again, but like that's what I would say. And also the pugging scene. A lot of people don't think of this as a strength, but I would disagree. I think it's great that you can do enough as a single player by yourself to feel like you're progressing, but don't feel like you're able to conquer all the content. Which is why I don't know if Melderon Defcamp showed you the video I sent him on Sky J's idea. I feel it wouldn't work. But, the idea of, if I don't play at the beginning, I can come back and get catch-up gear to kind of jump in, right? I like that concept where you can't do everything by yourself, but you can do enough where it's not so frustrating. Like, if someone comes back to TBC now, they have, like I said, a mountain of backtracking to do. Like, you gotta get your Gruul, you gotta get your gear in Kara, and then you can kind of go to ZA, and then maybe you can get, if you get enough badge gear, then maybe you can go into SSC or TK if you can find a guild to take you. It's stuff like that I'm talking about. The
10-man stuff was super good for casual players too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think some people were asking, I don't know if Megan, you brought this up, is 10-man raids going to be even more popular this time around? Which is something that I think could happen. I think
it's gonna be less popular actually.
You think it's gonna be like 10-man heroic, right, and 25-man heroic later on, like an ICC, right? So that's only one, So so that's probably something that.
Which is why I think they should bring heroic mode out early, because Nax is going to be.
That's what I was. That's another thing that I was thinking. So if they brought heroic mode out earlier, with Nax, because obviously one thing that's going to be really bad in the beginning of Wrath is that the first tier, back when Wrath actually happened, no one really did Nax other than the 5% of people. Now that pretty much everyone who's played Classic has either seen Nax or done it,
at least seen it or
watched it, right? It's going to be a lot different for that first. So like, could we have?
It was easy back then.
Exactly. So could we have a really heroic version of ICC to make it a little bit better?
Def, I promise you and Mel will be running 10-man every week at the start, just because you'll have that much more chance to put an epic. Yeah, it's not the 25-man version, but it's fair. It's pretty close, and you're gonna want to put that epic in over a blue.
We didn't clear Sunwell back in the day, Bob. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, and that's like that is something that is a very big catalyst. Like, I'm not sure. But
I don't know either,
especially anybody like Def's re-rolling. Is his tank gonna have Sunwell gear?
No, definitely not. I'll hopefully have like ZA gear and some.
Oh, and my Death Knight won't either, right? So that's another good point. There's gonna be new
you're
classes.
Gonna want you're going to want those just if you even use them for a week, maybe 2.
No, you're right. I didn't think about that. A lot of people are going to be re-rolling. Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys, and this is something that I know we're kind of talking about Wrath changes. So
hold on. I wanted to say the thing that I did the dual spec joke at the start, but I wanted to say the thing that I'm excited about, and I think I don't think you like it, Mega Man, but I know me and Melderon are on the same page. But I am excited for achievements.
Actually, I'm not excited for it, but
yeah, I'm excited for not the reasons of like comparing to people, because I'm a huge completionist. It's for my own personal reasons. It's not like to compare like I did this over you or anything like that.
Yeah, like everybody talks about like. Leak achievement to get into a pug group. Like all they can do, like all they have to do to fix that is just make achievements account wide, which would be actually really cool. So like they do that, then you can link it. You've done it on your main, you can get into a pug.
Yep.
Unpopular opinion, I actually am not a fan of achievements. I never have been. I
think that's actually the popular opinion.
Really? So my reason behind it mostly is I feel like the character and what I have should speak for itself. So if I have the ZG Tiger, to me that's an achievement. If I have, high warlord, or if I have, you know, good gear, if I had, to me that's an achievement. And I personally never saw like a little box with, you know, you did this, whatever, as like, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel good. I don't feel like, oh, I got this achievement. And whenever I got an achievement and they're like, oh, you did this boss without no one dying, or you did this version of the boss, and it's just like, oh, it wasn't even going for that, whatever, I got it. Like, I never.
Yeah, I don't think it should be used for gatekeeping. I'm more along the lines of having it for collections and stuff like that.
See, I really didn't even really
I'm just
care
a
for that
weirdo
either.
and want to see that number go up and up and up.
This is what I'd say about achievements. I agree with Bob. I think they should be account wide. This is one thing about Blizzard they dropped the ball on. I feel I don't understand why they weren't account wide from the get go, and I think it's hurt the game. Another thing that really does hurt the game overall. There's no reason why they shouldn't have been account wide, in my opinion. Like, what does it do? Like I have to do this achievement 100 times on every single alt I want to play to do anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything to the game.
Like,
that wouldn't
it
bother me at
made
all.
me not want to do alts. I mean, I wanted to do everything on one character, and then to switch that character to like switch mains, that wasn't even an option. Like, I've got all these achievements over here. What?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty cool for hardcore though.
Yeah, see, in that,
Yes, I do like it for. I do like the hardcore
Yeah.
achievement thing. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can actually have an achievement. Like, let's say let's say in Wrath they added an achievement that you didn't die when you hit 7.
Right. That. Yeah.
That would-
yeah. Okay.
That would be kind of cool because
okay,
it's you know, I'm just
yeah.
Well, even a thought process, because I know that we say things like, well, the first tier of Wrath is so easy. So what if they were to add an achievement? Hey, now there's an achievement. Can you do Nax without dying?
It exists.
I think that there already is one. Yeah, Immortal. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Immortal, and there are two different ones. One for 10 men and one for 25 men.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that. To be fair, I wasn't sure what that.
I know. There's a lot of achievements out there, my dude. A lot. Yeah.
That's fair. Like, there's a lot. But like, as far as changes to Wrath, Bob kind of took one of mine. Like, I'd say achievements, account wide. 2, I would say, this is gonna sound really weird. Increase the difficulty of the first tier of rating. I would say about 20%, or at least make the health pools back to their classic state. At least do that for 25. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
They're pretty close actually already, but yeah.
Not when I was looking at it, it was a big difference. Like 25% of the health was like just cut in half for a lot of them, from what I saw.
I think they're pretty close. I think the difference is it's level 80s.
Yeah,
Like,
I
so
don't know how much of a percentage, but one of the things they boasted about how hard Nax was in vanilla was that they didn't change much, like for the bosses, like even in Wrath. Yeah, for Wrath they didn't change much. Yeah,
really,
that was one of the points they made about how hard Nax was, is that when then Wrath came out they didn't alter the bosses that much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed their mechanics, but they didn't change. Again,
Minor,
this is just stuff people have said over the years, right? Like I've never actually tested this.
Was that they cut the health pools like by 25% or more when they brought Nax 20?
They may have, and if that's the case, I agree. They should increase the health.
Yeah, but just think about that. Like, you're 20 levels higher.
Yeah.
Your personal health pool is 12 grand rather than 3.
I wonder if that was for 10 man though.
Maybe.
It might be
Yeah.
for 10 man.
Yeah, maybe 10 man was something.
The site I looked up
Maybe
was
that's
a
what
little
you're thinking
bit
of.
vague about which difficulty it was, but that's what I would say. Increase the difficulty of the first tier of rating by about 10-20%. This next one I'm a little iffy on, and the reason I say that is because I don't want another TBC dungeon situation. Yes, Wrath heroics are easy. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, if you were asking me on base difficulty alone, Wrath heroics are much, much easier than TBC. But I would say increase it by a little bit, like maybe 10-20% at most. But the thing is I kind of wonder about that. Is that really good for the game? Because if you look at right now, right, we talked about this earlier, it's literally easy to do a 10-man raid than it is to do a 5-man dungeon. There's something wrong there with the difficulty curves, obviously. You know what I mean? Because if we're saying that 5-mans are where people start, then a raid should be harder than a heroic.
Okay, so I don't think you could fix that problem without making five mans a joke. Let me point out why.
That's fair.
In the Road to Rag hardcore challenge, you cannot die, right?
Mm-hmm.
In NA's entire run, I believe they had 3 people die. Is that right? 1,
Yeah.
and then 2 on Rag, right?
Yeah, I think it was 1 on reg.
No,
it was 3 on
definitely
Rag.
2.
Yeah, or
It was
2 on Rag. 2 on Rag. Yeah.
Kill.
Yep.
Maybe there was 2 deaths prior. You know how many deaths happened in the 5-man dungeons?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
I mean, we're talking like astronomical difference. The difference is that in a big raid, everybody can fill in for everybody else, whereas
it's true.
the smaller the group gets, the harder things get. Because
I also think it's a
people have
testament to
personal-
how good of a raid leader was in the hardcore raid.
True.
Well, yeah, but that's also the same.
Even
Yeah.
EU lost way less during raids than during 5-man.
I'm just saying it's a more controlled environment. That's all I'm saying.
Like maybe I don't know. I go back and forth because part of me goes, if people are going to get bored, but then again,
Right.
see, I would just contribute this more to the raid difficulty because remember back in 2008, the first 66 hours. Back in 2008, all the raid content was dead. Granted, that was the top guilds, but if you take into account how we've grown as players, that's the average Joe now, if you really think about it. You know what I mean? So, how, like, we saw what happens every single tier. Obviously, top guilds are going to crush it. Next is going to be dead before
Oh yeah.
they hit 80. I'm honestly convinced of that at this point.
Yeah.
They're just going to go with some old gear and crush it. It's going to be no joke. Whatever.
But
like, fun.
At the end of the day, guys, we are very excited for Wrath. But I gotta say, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight. I just want to first off, really want to thank Mega Man, dude. Thank you so much for coming out. Guys, most of these talking points, all of them, basically, were Mega Man's. He had a lot of really interesting things to talk about, and I just really wanted to thank you again, Mega Man, for coming out tonight, for having these amazing things to talk about. And of course, thanking Bob as well for coming out. I just wanted to give you guys a minute or so, to if there's anything you guys want to talk about or anything you guys want, what's the word? Give you, expose yourself. I don't know what the freaking word is.
Expose myself.
Expose yourself.
Let me take my shirt off.
Bob, go ahead. Put your stream out there.
Bob.
Expose yourself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just save me, please save me from what I'm trying to say.
All right, so yeah, this has been one of the more interesting podcasts I've been on, and I think Mega Man has taken us all over the place. Like I'm sitting here, like getting ready for my response on a certain thing, and all of a sudden he just takes us to the next thing, and I'm like, oh, shit, well, I didn't write this down yet, but it's been a good time, and I know.
Oh, make sure you plug yourself, Bob, too.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Plug yourself. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Fuck me.
All right, well, here, just one last thing. I know Mega Man, anybody who streams or anything, has probably had him in their chat, and I know he had a ton that he like really wanted to talk about, and I had a good time. So, if you ever want to see what I do a pod called Warcraft Reloaded. You can check it out on mashthosebuttons.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your pods. If you want to see me streaming, it's twitch.tv/Blazzinbob. That's BLAIZZN.
I.
Damn it.
BLAZZINBOB, right?
Oh
Just
my
like
God,
that, right?
dude.
Yep,
I've
there
done
you
this
go.
so many times.
There it is.
BLAIZZNBOB.
Wait, is there? There's no I in there? No, there is.
There's an I.
There's an I.
after the Z, but you said BLAI.
Dude, I don't know. Like I've said it a million times. Oh, my bad.
I love you.
Bob.
And of course, my brother Melderon for helping me set all this up and everything. Guys, I just wanted to say,
I don't know how the fuck it didn't work.
I don't know how it didn't work, but I thank him so much. He is literally the he is like, I don't know technical shit at all, so he helps me with so much stuff. But I want to say, guys, I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm going to be bringing DefTalks back. So be ready for this to be a regular thing. We're going to have more guests on, obviously.
Promise.
I promise. We're going to be putting this on YouTube as well. So I pinky swear.
And I'll upload it to our
our usual podcast places. So if you didn't catch the whole thing, you'll be able to go on YouTube and watch it, or on Spotify, whatever, whatnot. But again, oh, there's the masher buttons. Thank you so much, Morphe. A special shout out to Morphe, guys. Such a helpful person. I love you, Morphe. Thank you so much. Also, a special shout out to Messio. If you're not familiar with Messio, this is his video that we're watching in the background here, and it's typed MEISIO on YouTube. So that's his words on. He is amazing. Other
if you want to like chill in your house, put it on the TV or whatever, and just walk around. He's unbelievable. Like he does all this footage himself. He captures it all himself.
It's really great stuff. Yeah. But you're on Spotify. Yes, we are also on Spotify.
Yeah, just look up either DefTalk or Defcamp Melderon TV. Should pop up. We haven't uploaded in a while.
It should be Def. I've still been waiting forever for it to to update, but it's DefTalk, one word.
There you go. DefTalk. I'm surprised, but again, I just want to thank our guests again, and Megamanx especially, for coming out here. I know, man, you've been really excited to do this, and you did a great job, dude. Great job, and a really awesome talking points. I love all you guys. I really appreciate it. If anybody has anything else they want to say, go ahead. Anybody else?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Of course.
I just want to say thank you again. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here. Obviously, it's also nice to be understood for the first and I'm really happy to be here, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day and a wonderful night.
I'm sure we'll do it again.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
A lot more to talk about.
There's a lot more to talk about, and you know what? I really am just like, I love having content creators on here, but I also really love having viewers on here, because I feel like a lot of times content creators are able to have what they want to say, and it's out there, but you guys are just as important, and what you guys think is just as important, and I think it should go out there, and I think it's important for even more important. Exactly. You guys are the consumers, and I think it's really important for not even just content creators like us to hear this, but hopefully for people like who work at Blizzard and otherwise, to hear from their people who play the game what they like and what they don't like. So that's going to be an ongoing theme here on DefTalk. Is we're not just going to have content creators on here, we want to have you guys on here as well. So
did you expose yourself? Because people might be listening to
I think I exposed myself too many times, but
Twitch.tv/Defcamp.
Yeah. Oh yes. So yes, of course. I stream on Twitch.tv/Defcamp, as you guys obviously know who are watching here. So we're doing.
Podcasters might not
the podcasters might not know exactly. So if you're listening on the podcast, you guys know you can find me on Twitch.tv/Defcamp.
On YouTube at Defcamp Melderon TV.
Thank you. It's almost like you're a professional, Melderon. And
I've done this before
on YouTube.
I mean, he is a host on Warcraft Reloaded.
That's true. That's true.
A monthly host.
Yes, and on YouTube at Defcamp and Melderon TV. Okay, go ahead and raid Dawkin. Unfortunately, Melderon and I have to go do some arena, and fortunately, yes. And we're gonna head out. But again, guys, thank you all. I love you. Keep on keybinding and grinding, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.